This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I respectfully decline to answer. I respectfully decline to answer. I respectfully decline to answer.
That's what it sounded like. He just went on and on in this thing. You would have thought, I asked Fred this because he was monitoring it and pulling some of the audio. You would have think they would have come up with, like, just say ditto. Right? keep saying ditto. What I said the last time, but he would not answer any questions. And this was pretty good today because they went at him. We're going to talk to Brad Young about this here in a few minutes, just the legal aspects of Dr. Fauci taking the fifth. But look, I give the Republicans on the panel credit. I honestly, I don't know why this is a partisan issue. I mentioned to Fred, he'd be great on this, David Zweig, who I got to know a little bit a year and a half ago. He wrote this book called An Abundance of Caution, and it was really about what happened to kids and society during COVID and the negative aspects, the learning loss, all the mental health damage, all this stuff that happened. And I don't understand how no Democrat outside of John Fetterman could say, these are things that we should probably have conversations about. The American people should have conversations about it because these are important issues. Now, Dr. Fauci thinks that this is just an axe to grind by Senator Rand Paul. No, it's much more serious than that. And it angers me that the legacy media is minimizing this as somehow just this, vendetta that Rand Paul has against Fauci. So Senator Hawley, who's not always my favorite, by the way, but I give credit where credit is due, decided to ask some very important questions today because we weren't getting any answers, right?
Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
It's like an SNL bit when it was funny.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
Wow.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Okay. Well, what we were trying to do here is see if we can get perjury because he's lied so much and he's bound to lie again, which is why the attorneys are telling him to not answer the questions.
Yep.
I have a ton of audio here from people. There's so much good audio. Can't share it all, but I'm going to rank it. And I'm going to tell you, Hawley was pretty good because, he illustrated the nonsense that was taking the Fifth Amendment. But Bernie Moreno, who is from Ohio, was just amazing. Ooh. And, here's the thing about this, and I guess Democrats can't relate to this. I have so much anger about what happened during COVID. And I told you that this all kind of came and bubbled over with me again when my daughter had this little ceremony from, 5th to 6th grade. It's not like a graduation. It's a whatever the hell they call it. And when they showed the pictures from kindergarten and first grade, they were doing little images of the years past and, sending the kids off to middle school. And I was reminded of all the masking and all the crap that went on. And again, I've said many times before, we got off pretty easy here in Missouri compared to other parts of the country.
Why is this partisan? What are the Democrats saying?
I don't know.
What is to defend?
Well, you know what, Sue? There's nothing to defend. There is nothing to defend. And that's what Bernie Moreno said.
Mr. Fauci, do you know who David Schertler is?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. What does the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution say?
This is pretty good. He doesn't know.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
No, I'm just asking you what it says.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
All right, so he got frustrated with that, and then he says...
Sell them all, run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. Yeah. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people.
Look, I'm a pretty fair person, and I think you can give a little grace for March and April of 2020. There were a lot of things we didn't know, right? But there were things that we knew, like masks were nonsense that he kept repeating, the whole 6 feet social distancing. And that's nothing compared to the damage that it inflicted on families that couldn't say goodbye to loved ones and kids that had to wear masks that you couldn't even go to church and they yelled at you if you didn't have a mask on there. Some of the things are outrageous, and Bernie Moreno really did a great job with Fauci this morning.
If you thought the 6-foot rule was total crap, if you thought the vaccine wasn't something that you should take, if you thought it was outrageous the way the mask policy was rolled out, if you were fired from your job for not taking that vaccine, including members of the military, if you thought closing schools was catastrophically stupid, and that you thought that during these times saying these things made you somehow a lesser human being. Dr. Fauci, can you just turn around and look at the people behind you? You're not willing to do that?
Take the fifth on that.
That's not a question. It's not a question. To your lawyers, not a question. It's a request. All you have to do is look up from your lawyers and look at the people who were absolutely shamed for saying what we know now to be the truth. You can't even look at them?
Yeah, he can't even look at them, really. And, I thought about this, and I said this yesterday. Look, I said some things certainly even into 2021. I remember, and I had a phone call, and, I get upset when I take phone calls, right?
Yep.
But there was someone who called me when we were talking about the vaccine in June of 2021, and I was basically just starting on this station, right? Because I had come over from KMOX, spent a year in my basement doing the show from there. And this person told me it was a healthcare worker, and I was extremely rude to this person, and I shouldn't have been. And they were basically telling me that I was wrong, that people were getting sick that had the vaccine. I was smarter than everyone else, right? Because Dr. Fauci told me. It's an embarrassment to me, and I have to admit it. And I don't know if that person still listens. Probably not, because I was such a jackass. But I could not have been more wrong. But this is where my mantra about the experts come into play. Because fool me once, right? I've been fooled too many times, unfortunately, by politicians, by experts. The experts, you should always, always, always assume that the experts are wrong, not right. I'm just telling you, that's the game plan for moving forward, because they get so many of these things wrong. One of my favorite moments from the beginning of the pandemic was, do you remember when they decided that they found the virus on a subway and that it lasted 2 or 3 days or something like that? So then people thought, oh my gosh, that's why we all kind of used our sleeves when we went into the gas station or the gas pump or something like that. Well, it never, ever could be transmitted that way. And they knew that. And they didn't tell people. They lied about it. And they lied about so much. And it's just devastating what happened to the country. And no apologies.
Will you apologize, just apologize, to the people who you harmed through your actions? Will you say, do you have the dignity to just say you're sorry?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
So you won't apologize to the military members who Joe Biden summarily dismissed from the military for not taking the vaccine?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully
That's just embarrassing.
based upon my rights under the
All
Fifth
these
Amendment
things are outrageous.
The business owners that lost their business, shattered their lives, and they'll never recover?
For what, too?
Advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Thank you, Mark.
Will you
For
apologize
what?
to
Yeah,
the moms
exactly.
who had to force their infant children, 2, 3, 4-year-olds, to put masks on, and what that did and how that traumatized those kids?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
He's despicable. I hope they get him on something. It's ridiculous that we can't get answers to this question. But, I mentioned David Zweig's book. Read that book, Abundance of Caution, because it's amazing. It sums this stuff up so well. I got to be careful here today because we got a jam-packed show. I don't want to get too far behind. Brad Young is going to join us on some of the legal aspects of all this with Taking the Fifth in just a couple of minutes. Our chief legal analyst, Curtis Houck, will be here on some of the media reaction and some of the ways that this is being covered. We'll also go back to the White House Correspondents' Center and talk about that just a little bit. We have Duane Patterson with hotair.com in the 5 o'clock hour. My friend Fred Parry is going to join us from Columbia, Missouri. I mentioned this yesterday. Columbia has a lot of violence issues, not unlike the city of St. Louis. Oh, by the way, cops were shot at today in St. Louis. I got to cover a bunch of stuff because so much is happening. And you have a situation where now I'd like to see if we're going to get any reaction to this from our mayor in the city of St. Louis. But here's the story from First Alert 4. St. Louis Police federal agent shot at during a traffic stop. It says the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department is searching for suspects who shot at police working a traffic stop on Tuesday night. So it happened last night. 9 p.m., police conducted a stop alongside federal agents at Thekla and Riverview Boulevard in Walnut Park. The vehicle approached the area, opened fire on the officers under 4 minutes. Now, I have not heard any comment from the mayor on this yet, and it's probably because she's either on an airplane or on the ground in Mexico City because she's on a junket right now to bring more migrants. I'm not even making this up. To bring migrants here to St. Louis. That's where she left today. We got the news release from her office. How embarrassing is that? We got issues here, and she's in Mexico trying to bring migrants back here. Okay,
great.
Whatever. Let's work on the NBA franchise as well, Kara. She's becoming the same as the rest of them. Sucky. Just sucky. Why I ever had hope, I don't know why. Now, one more story I have to touch on, and I can't get into it now, but Sue, when you hear this, you are going to lose your absolute you-know-what. There were two young girls, 15 and 16 years old, that sat behind the bench of the Indiana Fever in Seattle last night. They wore XXXY clothing. I shot Jen Say a note about this, Fred. I'm so pissed off about it. And they were holding a sign simply in support of Sophie Cunningham. The owner, the co-owner of the Seattle basketball team, which, by the way, sucks, came over and shouted them down and said, "What are you effing thinking about with this?" I'm not even making this up. She brought this poor girl to tears.
Oh, 15 and 16
yes, and
year old.
all they were doing was wearing XXXY, which, by the way, I wear every other day, and I'm going to start wearing more of it.
You're not as easy to shout down. Do that to kids?
I'm telling you,
Are you kidding
when
me?
you hear this, it's outrageous, and the young girls will tell their stories.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, westbound 70 out of downtown is okay. But there's a little bit of a slowdown out at David Hochul Parkway. But 64 is starting to have some volume right around Hampton. Then again at 270 and one more time out at Prospect. There was an accident reported just past Prospect. Southbound 270, some moderate volume at 64. On the Illinois side, eastbound 5570 jamming at 203. And there's some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. But it's not bad if you're headed into Illinois. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Honey, I found the one.
Oh, I thought I was the one.
Oh, you are, but this one's certified, background check, shows up on time, and can install all the ceiling fans.
Heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Trusted pros who do it right.
Suffering from knee pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, or tennis elbow caused by arthritis, inflammation, or an injury? STL Joint Relief, now open in St. Peter's, offers a non-surgical, non-narcotic solution that can provide lasting relief. Using advanced ultrasound guidance, we pinpoint the exact source of your pain, allowing for precise treatment that targets the problem, not just the symptoms. Best of all, STL Joint Relief accepts all insurance. Learn more and schedule your appointment at stljointrelief.com.
Have you heard those ads claiming Amendment 4 stops conservative amendments?
That's not true. It actually stops a couple big cities from pushing radical ideas into our Constitution. Remember 2024? Only 8 out of 114 counties voted to allow transgender surgeries on children.
That's terrifying. We can't let just a handful of counties rule the whole state.
Exactly. Amendment 4 requires broad statewide support and keeps foreign money out of our elections. Vote yes on 4 this August 4th.
You convinced me. I'm voting yes, too.
Paid for by Freedom Principle MO, Missouri First PAC, Kate Sickles, Treasurer.
Hi, this is Steve Butts from the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. In 2026, our agency celebrates a momentous occasion as we celebrate 65 years of service to our clients, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Nor Butts. Our staff is ready to assist you with all your insurance needs. So please call me, Steve Butts, at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com. For auto, home, and commercial insurance needs, that's crawfordbutts.com.
Travis Wilson here, State Representative of District 106 in St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. As a 31-year resident of St. Charles County, I know the issues that are important to our residents, such as protecting women's sports, stopping harmful procedures on minors, and fighting the woke agenda. As your representative, I know what it takes to bring new opportunities to our community to ensure our children have a brighter future. It's been the honor of a lifetime for my family and me to represent you, and I humbly ask for your vote again on August 4th.
Paid for by Wilson for St. Charles. Merle Schneider, Treasurer.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they were very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Yeah, good stuff here. Brad Young's coming up, and let me play another bite here from Senator Hawley on Dr. Fauci repeatedly taking the Fifth Amendment.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich. While people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich.
Look, I think people, some of you know that, Senator Hawley and I, we're not on the best terms, but he was outstanding on this. I can always give credit where credit is due, and he did a great job on that today. Now, Brad Young is with us, our own legal analyst, partner with Harris, Young, and Kaiser. Hello, Brad. How are you this afternoon?
Mark, I'm doing great, sir. Thanks.
This was quite something. I just a few minutes ago led the show with a bunch of the audio from this hearing. And look, I happen to be in the camp that thinks that Dr. Fauci is a despicable human being. And I, was reinforced, I think, and a lot of us were vindicated when we saw some of the stuff that was coming out about the diaries. And it's interesting to me, in this hearing, and you can explain how this happens legally, that he just takes the Fifth over and over and over and over again. And that the Democrats, none of them seem, except for Fetterman, he's the only one, seem troubled at all by all the misinformation, by the narcissism, by the fact that he was gloating about going to dinner with Jake Tapper and some of these other media types. So I don't even know how you get your arms around all this with the diaries. I know Rand Paul has certainly been going after Dr. Fauci for a while, but how anyone can defend some of this stuff after what we experience as a country is beyond me at this point, Brad.
Yeah, there's two sides to this, Mark. First of all, it's the political and then the legal. On the political side, it doesn't shock me at all that the Dems on the committee are standing by Fauci because they have to. They have to stand by their base, which is the people who are just living in fear of COVID, who thought that you had to wear 4 masks and stay 27 feet away from any human being, lest they get the disease. But they have to support Fauci because he's hanging with Hollywood. And who supports the left more than
true.
Hollywood? So on the political side, they've got a backup. On the legal side, this is fascinating on 2 different fronts here. First of all, God bless Ron Paul.
Rand Paul, too, his father.
God
too.
bless Rand Paul, right?
Yeah.
And he got Fauci's lawyer removed from the room, and there was applause in the hearing room when that happened. I thought that was great. But here's where it gets legally complex. Biden issued a forward-facing pardon for Fauci, but that's limited in 2 ways. Number one, it cannot pardon him for any state crimes or within the District of Washington, D.C. Secondly, it cannot pardon him for future crimes. It was just a future pardon for anything he did up through the date of the pardon. So legally, it's a quandary here because technically he should be able to be forced to testify since he has a pardon, but he's not. So I do expect that the Republicans in the Senate will sign off on issuing a warrant for his arrest and cite him for contempt of Congress.
So does he have, like, he can still be liable, though, for perjury if he says something despite the pardon, can't he, or is that not true?
No, absolutely can, which is why he's taking the fifth.
Right. I got you.
So there's one more step in this dance card, and the additional step is this. Congress, under 18 U.S.C. 6002, they have to vote by the full committee to advance notice to the Attorney General. When that happens, you can get a court order that compels testimony and bars any prosecution for what he says. Once that happens, then he can be forced. He cannot take the fifth because he can't be prosecuted. And frankly, that's more important here. I want Fauci to answer these darn questions about him disbelieving the truth, about expecting that he would be hanging with celebrities is more important than being honest with the American people. I want him to answer those questions, even if he eventually gets immunity for doing so.
Yeah, so, I think people need to know the answers to a lot of these questions. And if we can't get them, everyone wants to forget. And I know that this was terrible to begin with, right? A lot of people died. We have to acknowledge that. And there was a little unknown. But the unknown became relatively clear a lot quicker than I think the American people were told. And when you have 200,000 businesses that close permanently, you have learning delays in K through 12. My daughter was in kindergarten. I had to sit there, with her in the first 2 months, and, it was done via Zoom, which was ridiculous. And then even after that, they were masked up through part, or if not most of, first grade. You have the speech. Any of her teachers have told us that they see this when we do parent-teacher conferences. The developmental delays in kids, the masking in and of itself did harm to them. Uptick in mental health issues, more suicide deaths than COVID deaths in children. People who were fired over the vaccination status, including people in the military, right? People denied life-saving operations because of vaccination status. All this stuff was going on when he was lying to people. And, I've accepted part responsibility myself, Brad, because, man, I was in the camp, and I have to admit this, that in the spring of 2020, I'd say June, when the vaccine was getting rolled out, that I said this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Nothing could have been further from the truth. But I was a sucker too. I listened to these lies that they were telling, that you couldn't spread the disease you couldn't spread COVID if you were vaccinated. Not true. You couldn't get it if you were not true. None of it was true.
Right. And here's even a bigger concern. Yeah, my daughter lost her senior graduation because of COVID.
Yes.
Right. And it cost us trillions of dollars. It killed countless people. But here's the bigger issue, I think, broader issue, which is that is our government partially responsible for funding the research that leaked out of the Wuhan lab? And that is a legitimate question to be answered. And Fauci just continues to maintain the lie when all of the evidence that we have to date strongly suggests, if not proves, that this was a lab leak from Wuhan.
So, that's one of the reasons I get frustrated that this is a partisan issue. I don't understand. This is what happens. We know this. We see these hearings. You and I talk about these hearings all the time. The left goes down on one side, the right goes down on the other side, except for Fetterman today. He was the only one who didn't. But why in the world wouldn't Democrats want to know the answers to these questions? And I think, in part, Brad, you kind of answered that from the beginning because, they were praying to the masked gods at the time, and they were the people that were giving, these were people that supported citing someone on a beach for walking on the beach without a mask or for even being out there. I mean, some of the things that I think people have forgotten, including a lot of these Democrats, the nonsense that we had to go through, with the vaccination cards and all that stuff, it's horrific that happened to our country. And I would hope at least at some point, maybe this isn't the week, But I hope at some point there is a reckoning for that. And I cannot see how Dr. Fauci is not primarily responsible for a lot of this. Now, in fairness, too, I think some of this happened under Trump. And Trump, he may have showed some anger toward Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, but there were things that he could have done at the time as well, I think.
Yeah, he could have. But you also have to remember the worldview that's at issue here. The worldview that we saw on display during COVID was the following, Mark. We saw a worldview that says every crisis requires an immediate and overwhelming response by the government, that only the government can save you, only the government can help you, and you have to rely on the government for your very life, your existence, and your sense of happiness. All of that was on display because of the left's insistence that massive government is required to solve this problem. And really what we saw is the result was massive government simply deprived people of rights, deprived people of their jobs. Heck, in Nevada, casinos were allowed to be open during COVID, but churches had to close. It just shows you the pomposity of the left that the government can solve every problem.
Well, and that's philosophically, where I've been my entire life. And this is just one example that, I can't wait to see. I really can't wait to see how kind of history reflects on this. We're still in the moment, where it wasn't that long ago. But 15, 20 years from now, maybe we won't be around, Brad. But I will like to really see if history adjusts the narrative to the truth of what happened. David Zweig's a guy that I've gotten to know over the course of the last few years. And David has been just outstanding at really uncovering some of this stuff when, it was happening. He was part of the Twitter files. He wrote a great book about this as well and really focused on what was happening with kids in education and, the learning loss and all that stuff. So those are the types of things that I think need to be, reminded. People need to be reminded of that now in this moment where Dr. Fauci's just taken the fifth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one other very quick story. The pastor at my church during COVID told me that the city had told him that we couldn't meet. We couldn't have a church service because of COVID. And he asked me what we should do. And I told him what we do is we hand out banners and signs to all of our congregants, and we call it a protest, not a church service, because George Floyd and Michael Brown and these other protests were allowed to happen. So I said, hey, let's call it a protest, not a church service, and then dare them to shut us down. So, yes, it was insanity, and I'm glad that we've regained some sense of sanity in the years since.
By the way, the book, and I was drawing a blank on the name of David's book, and I had him on a couple of times talking about this. It's called An Abundance of Caution, American Schools, the Virus, and a Story of Bad Decisions. It came out, I would say, probably about a year and a half ago, and it is outstanding, highly recommended to anyone out there that wants to kind of have a really, really great, fair look at some of the things. I mean, he's no staunch conservative by any means. He just was doing journalism here and dug into the real issues that people need to hear about. So I highly recommend David's book because it's really good. Brad, I hope all is well with you. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, that covers it. And I do, just to put a pin in it, I do see the Republicans in the Senate on the committee voting to send this out for possible conviction under 18 USC because of his failure or refusal to answer questions.
Yeah, we'll track on that. All right, Brad Young, thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
There is an accident now on westbound 6440 before 141. So it's pretty close to Maryville Center. And they've got the left lanes blocked. Looks like the two left lanes. And it's caused a jam that goes back through 270. Now, 270 itself just has some moderate volume headed down toward the Clayton Road overpass. There was an accident near 79 on westbound 70, and MoDOT is reporting that it was blocking a traffic lane as well. So a little bit of a slow go out there. And other than that, well, we do have some volume on the Illinois side, that all due to road work. And we've got moving road work, eastbound 44 at Lewis Road in the left lane on the Missouri side. Now, on the Illinois side, look for 64 eastbound to be slow, approaching 159. And 5570 eastbound is slowing right around 203. That was the road work. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Stu and I mentioned this week, I cannot believe we are barreling so quickly toward the month of August. Now, I have an offer here from Stewart's American Mortgage that might expire at the end of this week. I'm honestly not sure. I haven't talked to Stu yet. We extended it after July, started, and he was getting such reaction. And here's the deal. This is why he's getting so much attention right now. Two things, because we added to this. So for clients who are interested in buying a home, Stewie is offering you a 1% discount on your interest rate for the first year, and you still get the bagel loan, so that's no closing costs. 30-year mortgage, interest rate lower by 1% for the first year, plus the bagel loan. On a refi, if you're going from an FHA to a conventional, same offer. Limited time, 1% discount, and the bagel loan. When you get the bagel loan, you pay no appraisal fees, no closing costs, no title fees, no broker fees. The other advantage here, if you're going to purchase a home in particular, is he can get you closed quickly. He'll tell you some stories of some people who have been in, competitive bidding situations on homes, and that has given them a big advantage. If someone wants to close really fast, Stewart can make that happen. So take advantage of this offer right now. Google the bagel loan or call or text Stewie at 314-324-4440. Again, I don't know if this is going to be extended. I thought it was going to come to an end at the end of June. He had a lot of success with it, so we'll see next week. But in the meantime, you might want to jump on this right now. Google the bagel loan, text Stewie, or call 314-324-4440. NMLS number 226715.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Trisha Burns never answers the call. Trisha Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Trisha Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job.
Let's Go Brandon PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Chris Foss, Treasurer.
Industrial automation is complex, but navigating it doesn't have to be. Like a trusted trail guide, Gray Bar's automation specialists help organizations reduce uncertainty, mitigate risk, and plan their next steps. From evaluating existing systems to connecting you with trusted technologies and business partners, we help future-proof your automation so your team can operate with confidence, today and tomorrow. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
I'm Bill Eigel. I'm a no on data centers. Last year, when a new hyperscale data center was up for a vote in St. Charles City, I'm the only candidate for county executive who stood with you in opposition. Meanwhile, Steve Ellman was writing op-eds in support of data centers. In fact, he spent $400,000 of your taxpayer money to identify 6 locations just for data centers in St. Charles County. I'm Bill Eigel, and if you don't want data centers in our county, then I'm asking for your vote on August 4th.
Paid for by Eigel from Missouri. Lisa Borchers, Treasurer.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
336, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
2026 is a year to celebrate. America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk is sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
Remember, let's take a little trip backwards when the celebrities just could not get enough of Dr. Fauci.
Oh, this is such a thrill. Golly, you're really like my personal hero right now.
To the real Dr. Fauci, thank you for your calm and your clarity in this unnerving time.
You could be man of the year every day somewhere in this United States and the world.
Not many people can say they've saved millions of lives. And Dr. Fauci wouldn't because he's modest.
There's only one rock star in this Zoom tonight. I am very honored to be the warm-up act for a little kid from Brooklyn who turned into this gigantic public servant.
Oh, Bono. Oh, Mark Ruffalo, who's very hulky in the new Spider-Man movie, which I didn't like very much. Curtis Houck is here from the Media Research Center and Newsbusters. Those great memories of the celebrities and everyone. I have another one of liberal commentators that I'm sure you guys have supercuts of too. Just fawning over Dr. Fauci, Curtis. Well, I don't have him, guys. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Oh,
there
I
you are.
am.
Okay.
There I am.
Sorry about that.
I for one totally miss, Mark, the days when I would be living by myself, totally working around the clock because what else is there to do? While all sorts of people lost their minds. They moved Jimmy Kimmel to later in the night, and they moved night lineups so Byron Pitts could ask Mike Pence, when you talk to God at night, do you regret all the people that are dying now because of your policies? I mean, all kinds of things here, Mark. I mean, Fauci is the perfect friend for the liberal media because he's just like them. He's thin-skinned and he's incapable of ever saying he did anything wrong and that he's sorry.
But so this is, I made this case yesterday. I knew you guys would be tracking this, but when the diaries come out and there's pretty revealing stuff in there, I mean, at the very least, the cozy relationships and the kissy he was doing with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and some of the other media people, and the way he writes glowingly about himself, I think that deserved just a little bit more news coverage than everyone gave it, because they gave it virtually nothing, didn't they, the legacy media in the first couple of days?
Correct. Yeah. So Rand Paul, to be slightly critical, his tweet, his thread and his link went live at 3:30 Eastern on a Saturday afternoon. So the timing was not that great for the launch. But however, that said, up until this morning, the broadcast networks, there was no mention on ABC. There was no mention on NBC. CBS gave it 24 seconds on Monday. There was no mention on, I don't think CNN had it. I don't think MS Now had it. I mean, CNN did when Lydia Monahan tried to bring it up on the Abby.
Hang on. Hey, Curtis, hang on a second. Hang on a second. We got a terrible phone line, just like a terrible phone line. I'm going to put you on hold here. We're going to see if we can get you back on because it's just clipping out. And I'll have Ethan kind of call you back. So hang in there for a second. Does it look like someone might be listening to me, Sue, in the other room or not? Sometimes all you got to do is recall the line and then it's fine.
Listening.
So we'll get him back on the line because it was, we call that kind of clippy, right? It was just not good. All right, so then let me remind you of the liberal media love that he was kind of referring to.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, American hero and New York Yankee fan.
With me now is Dr. Anthony Fauci, America's favorite doctor.
The head and the heart that comes together in your body is the real deal, Dr. Fauci, and that's why people believe in you.
Dr. Fauci, I know you are one of the busiest scientists in the country right now. It is an honor to have some of your time.
We see you as well as a hero, Dr. Fauci. Thanks so much for your time.
How is it that it is your birthday tomorrow, but we here at CBSN got the gift? We got to talk to you.
Saturday Night Live is back this weekend. After a month of being off, what do you think the chances are that somebody will portray you?
Oh, he loves himself. Sorry about that, Curtis. Hopefully we got you, and it's a little bit better now. Let's test this out. Testing. Yeah, I think it sounds better. Yeah. So all the fawning and all that, but look, how can you not have, this is where I'm confused, because honestly, and I talked about this at the open of the show, some of this really shouldn't be partisan. The media shouldn't be throwing cover for Dr. Fauci. I mentioned David Zweig's book because he did a great job writing about some of this related to COVID, the learning loss, the way it affected kids, the way it affected everyone when it came to isolation, right? Those are the stories that need to be told. These are people that say they believe in science, right? These journalists and Dr. Fauci. Well, there's a lot of science that completely contradicts the science that Dr. Fauci was citing and Dr. Birx were citing when they closed the whole damn country down and forced people to wear masks for a year and a half.
Isn't science itself constantly changing?
It is.
As we learn more as a society. I mean, if we thought the world is flat, I could go all the way back to that, Mark,
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Look, climate change is probably the best example of that. But you guys are so great at really exposing the media nonsense. And there's no better Exhibit A, Curtis. This is exactly what, and Matt Taibbi weighs in on this too, because he was part of this in the Twitter files. But the corporate media worked hand in hand. Instead of being skeptical, I was taught to be skeptical as a journalist at the University of Missouri. There was no skepticism at all. And by the way, I've accepted some culpability for this around the vaccine because I accepted things about the vaccine that they were going to, prevent transmission, prevent infection that were completely untrue. And by the way, we knew that pretty quickly, didn't we?
Yeah, people started getting sick. I mean, I think, what was that, Christmas 2021? A lot of people got sick after they were told, oh, you can have Christmas now.
Before that,
okay.
I've shared this story before, and I'm telling you, it still makes me so mad because in June of 21, I was asked to do a campaign for the vaccine. Okay, now I'm going to get paid for that campaign. I agreed to it. The state of Missouri is going to pay me, and that money's coming from the federal government. So that's taxpayer money. I do the ads for 3 weeks, encouraging people to get the vaccine, Curtis. At about the 3-week point, this is into July, I start to realize that the narrative about the vaccine is changing and changing dramatically, and my reputation's on the line, right? So I ask a salesperson who no longer works in this building to run some interference for me and say, hey, this has got to be updated. I don't trust this right now, and this is taxpayer money. The salesperson thought I was crazy, didn't want to do anything. I went right to the agency itself, and I said, hey, guys, I need some guidance here from the governor's office on what to do with this because it's not accurate. And they completely blew me off. And, when there is ample evidence that things were not going the way that they promised they would go with the vaccine, they didn't care if the information was counter to that particular sales job when the evidence was very clear. So that pissed me off. And how many people fell for that nonsense, too, that didn't even need the vaccine? Have you gotten a booster since you got your booster that was required? Probably not. None of us have, right?
Yeah, I think I was at the first dose you had to do in 2, but then I got one after. So 3, yeah. So jabbed 3 times.
Yeah, and I've never had one since then because, this is the other thing that nobody ever brings up. They mocked Trump about this, and I knew at the time what he meant. And this is where, I'm not saying I have the ability to jump into the president's mind, but I think that the one area that you and I would agree on is the very fine people and the way that was misrepresented by, and still gets misrepresented by, a lot of people. But when Trump said, and people made fun of him, they laughed at him when he said, and it's going to go away, it's just going to go away. You know why he said that? He said it because he was basing it on what happened in 1918 and 1919. And it did kind of go away. And guess what happened with this one? It went away. There's people still getting COVID, but it's nothing. It's less than the flu. It's not even as severe sometimes as the cold. So it did go away because natural immunity is what made it go away, not the stupid vaccine.
Right. And that's why people got sick at the beginning, because there was not immunity yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I just what's so frustrating, Mark, and when they do cover it, CBS today, they brought on Dr. Celine Gounder, who was part of the Biden-Harris transition team. She said gain of function is necessary to get ahead of this virus, and that Fauci didn't actually have the authority, or he wasn't really in charge of closing schools. At the end of the day, the governors and the school boards, they made that decision. It's just complete revisionist history. It's almost mob-like the way Fauci went about things. I feel like I'm just taking crazy pills. Fauci did TV interviews saying Ron DeSantis and Brian Kemp were going to kill people.
Right, they're killing the old people. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, and so to engage and say, he wasn't really dwelling on his celebrity. He was really just musing about it because he felt all the pressure of it, Mark. It's like what celebrity person doesn't like to have selfies taken with them? That's basically what her line was. And it's like, it's perpetually the Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. I talk about all the time. Am I out of touch? No, it is the children who are wrong. There's no sort of humility here.
Look, you can make exceptions for, okay, I'm overwhelmed by this fame. People are talking about me as selfies. But that is not a one-off, right? That is a constant theme in his diaries. You know what's not a constant theme? All the lies that he told, the misinformation, and the way that they sold the vaccine, and on and on and on. So he can gloat about his celebrity encounters and, dining with Jake Tapper, but that's not just a passing reference in those diaries. It basically was everything that those diaries. He never really seemingly wanted to take the health aspects of this seriously at all after the first couple of months.
I just have to say also, too, how hilarious it is that they were like these private diaries. They were meant to be private. He dictated them on a government computer.
Yeah, well, there is that. And by the way, I heard someone say, I think John Ziegler said this last night. He was on CNN. The information that is the information that's in these diaries is far more damaging than anything that was in the Epstein files. I'm sorry, but it's not even close. And there's no clamoring for this stuff right now. One other question, Curtis Houck, because I saw this. What do you make of the hire that Barry Weiss made at 60 Minutes of Ross Douthat? I don't even know how to pronounce his name, from the New York Times.
Yeah, Douthat, yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's terrific. I mean, obviously he's not going to be like incredibly conservative. He's very Christian, committed, theological, discussion. So I'm interested to see if that kind of thing ends up on 60 Minutes, talk about religion and Christianity in a positive light, in a constructive light. But, he's not a particular Trump-leaning guy. But the knock on him and Sebastian Junger, who wrote, The Perfect Storm and some other books about the war in Afghanistan, and there's a few others in there. The criticism that's being leveled by the media class, the media reporters out there is, well, these guys don't have TV experience. What do they know? And it's just more of the same Mean Girls nonsense. And I would say for a fact, somebody like Sebastian Junger, they probably have been trying to bring on in the previous regime. They're bringing in some woman from Vice who won some award for some, death and dignity report that she did when she was over at Vice News. By the way, you broke some news.
I did not know that Sebastian Junger was hired. And The Perfect Storm was it was a terrible movie. It was a great book, a great book. I got to run. We're out of time.
Isn't he going to be great?
I think he might be. Now you've kind of turned me into, some curiosity there. Curtis, I got to go, but thank you and have a great week.
You got it.
All right, we'll see you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got volume. There was an accident on westbound 6440, really close to Maryville Center, and they have had the left lanes blocked out there. So if you're traveling and sitting in a jam, that's what's going on. Let me check and see if that left looks like they are in the process of getting that cleared, if not already. So if that's the case, that should thin out quickly. But in the meantime, it's a slow go back through Lindbergh. And westbound 40 also slow at Hampton. 70 westbound looks good out of downtown. Some moderate volume at 141. And eastbound 270 looks a little slow, headed for West Florissant. We've got a jam on southbound 21. It's just really slow tonight. And that's just past Butler Hill. It's especially slow, headed for Wells Road. And I'm not sure if it's a traffic light or what's going on. But if you're headed into Illinois, things are fine on the bridges. It's westbound where we have some slow-moving traffic. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's Traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Why pay full insurance when you can customize and save? Switch to Liberty Mutual and they'll customize your auto and home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I want to talk about Banner Construction, and I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but we talk about James Hardy fiber cement siding. What is that exactly? So fiber cement is made of water, sand, Portland cement, wood pulp, or fiber. And when that's mixed together, it's a real durable material that can be molded into different textures. So the water is used to dissolve the wood fibers, to activate the cement, to help it harden. It results in a great product for you to put on your home. And it's low maintenance. The aesthetics are beautiful. You can have different styles and options. It could be a brick look, vertical plank, stone, lap, wood, shingle. It's very durable. It's not going to warp, crack, or dent easily. Extremely energy efficient, fire resistant, pest proof. You get good ROI, increased home value. So the list goes on and on and on. It's far, far superior than other siding materials. And then you have the team here at Banner Construction in St. Louis that can put it all together for you. They can start with a free in-home design consultation. Maybe you're interested in energy-efficient windows from Pella. They handle those as well. BannerConstruction.com or call 314-569-1050 and tell them that we sent you along, and have a banner day.
This is a special place, but not by accident. Learn our backstory, and you'll even love America more. Celebrating America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk, I'm Brian Kilmeade.
America 250 is sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
Bill, you're an old politician.
Yup, sure am.
So you know the old-timers warned that someone trying to sell you a pig in a poke was a con man.
Well, sure.
Well, no offense, Tom, but your politician's Amendment 5 is a pig in a poke, allowing politicians to raise our taxes without a vote of the people, and the politician's Amendment 4 takes away our power to do anything about it. Well, let's look at what's really inside Forward 5.
Oh, don't do that.
5 hits hardest seniors and those struggling financially with new taxes on services like doctor visits, in-home care, and rent. Sales taxes could more than triple. For up to 80% of Missourians, it's a tax hike. And Amendment 4 ends majority rule, allowing a minority of the most liberal statewide voters in one district to effectively end our power to stop corruption and out-of-control spending and taxing.
Slick plan, huh?
No, Tom. 4 and 5 are schemes that hurt citizens and transfer our power and our money to politicians and lobbyists. That's why I'm voting no on the politicians' Amendments 4 and 5, paid for by Missourians for fair governance.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-887-4333. 314-887-4333. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-887-4333.
Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I had somehow missed the Sebastian Younger announcement that he was going to be doing stuff at 60 Minutes. Sue, did you ever read The Perfect Storm?
No, I didn't read it.
See, I read books, Sue, and I don't know if you know, but I read that book, The Perfect Storm. Oh, it was a great, great book. I think it was late 1990s. The movie wasn't that good, really. I mean, I think if you didn't read, it's the same thing. Like, if you read the book, you probably didn't think the movie was that great. If you had never read the book, then it's an amazing story. It really is. I think it was about the Andrea Gale, wasn't that the name?
I don't even
of
know.
the ship. But so that's an odd choice. So I'll have to allow Barry a little bit of liberty here, because she's announcing people like Ross Douthat and, Sebastian Younger to 60 Minutes. And I'm fine if they don't have specific TV experience. Douthat in particular, he's reviewed films for National Review. He's been a pseudo-conservative commentator. I don't think he's conservative. He's more independent and down the middle, but she's definitely going in a different direction. Now, a couple of the Leslie Stahl's still going to be there, right? She didn't quit. And Bill Whitaker, who came in and did the BS story here in St. Louis, they'll still be there. But, this will be interesting to have.
It will, actually.
I think different, look, the people who are doing the photographing, the editing, the production on the stories, those are probably likely some of the same people. So you need good people to sit across from interview subjects and ask good questions and, formulate a story that way. What we are kind of asking for as people who think the media should be fair is just be fair. Don't come into St. Louis like Bill Whitaker and have the story that you're going to tell already in your mind and have an agenda about this poor circuit attorney and Kim Gardner who's being taken advantage of, especially by white people, white racist people. That was his story. And that was the story before he even arrived in St. Louis. And even though the facts were presented as otherwise, and I know this because I presented some of the facts to Mr. Whitaker, he ignored them. And that's what they do at 60 Minutes and some of these other things. And that's what we hope will change just a little bit.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, on the roads this afternoon, we've had some challenges, and westbound 6440 is really still slow, but starting to unwind. We had an earlier accident near Maryville Center in the left lanes, so some volume that goes back near Lindbergh, but not quite. And moderate volume 64 from Kings Highway out through McCausland. And eastbound is slowing at Big Bend. Westbound 70 looks good out of downtown. A little bit slow at 141 and at K. Now 64 out west, there was an accident reported really near Prospect. So some slow-moving traffic there. Southbound 270 slow, mainly at the Clayton Road overpass. And volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge and eastbound 64 headed for 159. Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Okay, today is a great example of why you need to visit with us in a couple of weeks with the team from the Retirement Advisor Group, because the market took a big dip today because the Fed expressed some concern about the economy, and they didn't drop rates. They just kind of held them steady. But the Dow tumbled 1,153 points. Now, we know that what comes down often goes up and vice versa, but there are some warning signs out there. That's why you need the team from the Retirement Advisor Group to get with you and create a plan for your worry-free retirement. One way you can do this, and it's only one way, is you can visit with us here in a couple of weeks. It's actually 2 weeks from last night, August 11th, the Tuesday night at the Doubletree Hilton by Chesterfield off of Swingley Ridge Road. It's all about giving you a plan to make sure that you can retire comfortably with the money that you have saved over all these years. How is inflation going to affect that? How is tax policy going to affect that? How will the Fed affect that? They'll walk you through it all, and they'll help you out. Now, you can always go one-on-one, but we'd love to see you 2 weeks from Wednesday or 2 weeks from Tuesday, last night, August 11th. Call 314-993-9494 to get registered today, or retirementkey.com. It's a free event. We just need to save you a seat.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. Let's just face it, right? Your home should work for you, not against you. Hi, it's Kim, and if you've been dreaming of a new kitchen, bathroom, or a finished basement, now's the time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design. They're St. Louis's trusted experts in turning houses into dream homes. Just imagine this, a spa-like bathroom, maybe a chef-inspired kitchen, or how about a cozy basement perfect for some movie nights? Their team handles everything from design to installation, so you can just sit back and enjoy the process. Visit lakesidearty.com today to start your dream renovation.
If you like that comfortable setting to hang out where people know your name, check out Lit Cigar Lounge. My friends at Lit Cigar Lounge are fantastic. Brian and Dana and Andrew and Charlie and Nick and all of them down there are going to get to know you by name because it is a family-run business in the Chesterfield Valley and the district. They've got an extensive selection of bourbons and whiskeys and craft cocktails and some of the best hand-rolled cigars from around the world. Check them out at the district or go online to litstl.com.
KFTK FM Florissant.
An Odyssey station.
It's our turn. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. That warning from President Trump, who says Iran knows it's coming after missiles were fired at U.S. forces in Jordan overnight, all of them intercepted. This followed a pause in U.S. strikes on Iran for several days, allowing time for talks.
And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
This after the U.S. and Saudi Arabia targeted Iran-backed militias in Iraq over drones fired towards Saudi oil facilities.
But so far, U.S. officials are not saying if another drone attack today in Egypt on a U.S.-owned LNG tanker is Iran-related or indicates that the war is expanding. The president said he's been briefed, and it's a little more of the same, and it's going to be straightened out before revisiting his plans to hit Iran.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House. The president also telling reporters it would be surprising if China was sending rocket launchers to Iran after reassurances from China's president about not helping Iran.
He told me very strongly he wouldn't partake. And he knows I'd be quite disappointed. Yeah, please. And he's coming here, I think, on September 24th.
There's a report the rocket launchers are going from China to Iran through Pakistan, which has been one of the mediators in talks between the U.S. and Iran. A man already convicted on state charges in an attack on author Salman Rushdie has just been convicted again in a federal terrorism case. A federal jury in New York State finding Hadi Matar guilty on all counts. Rushdie was stabbed on stage during an event in 2022, slashed 15 times and gravely wounded. He lost sight in his right eye. Matar did not testify. Reassurance from Fed Chair Kevin Warsh as the central bank leaves interest rates alone again, despite persistent inflation above their 2% target.
This Fed will not waver. Our credibility rests on performing our duties and delivering on our responsibilities.
America is listening to Fox News.
Are you an adult with uncontrolled moderate to severe Crohn's disease symptoms and still packing a backup bag of clothes? Just in case? Skyrizi Risankizumab Riza can help you take control of your Crohn's. Feel significant symptom relief, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements at 4 weeks. Plus, Skyrizi is proven to help people achieve remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Individual results may vary. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's. Ready to take control of your Crohn's? Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's disease.
Control is everything to me.
Learn more at skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Easy to tell. It's all about the northwest flow on this Wednesday afternoon. Sunny skies, 88 for the high. Tonight, we fall through the 80s for evening plans, 68 for the low, clear skies, and nice full moon night tonight. Thursday, sunny and great, 88 degrees. Look for scattered showers and thunderstorms Friday, and again on Saturday, each day, 85. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Wow, I feel like I have so much to cover here in limited time because we're already 1 hour in. We have Susan News coming up here in just a few minutes at 4:18 or so. Drew Holden will be here. Drew's great. He's got a great Substack, and he has written a series of articles detailing everything that went wrong during the COVID lockdowns. It's a COVID autopsy, if you will, and he'll have some reaction to the Fauci hearing. My friend Duane Patterson with HotAir.com will be here after 5. He was on vacation last week. We look forward to touching base with him. And then Fred Parry. Fred's an old Mizzou friend of mine. It's so funny. When we met in the early 80s at Mizzou, I was doing college radio and in the journalism school, and he was doing the same thing, but he ran the Man-Eater, which is the student publication, the student newspaper at Mizzou. The Columbia Missourian is the one that is part of the J School, but just the student paper, I don't know, Fred, I think it would still be around, called the Man-Eater, right? It was KCOU was the student station, and then the Man-Eater, right? But I've known Fred for that long. But man, Columbia's had some things that have happened recently that are not very good. A lot of downtown violence, a big takeover from last weekend, and then this controversy at the Boone Regional Library in the queer-led story time. So Fred did something called Inside Columbia Magazine, and I don't know if he's still involved. He might have sold the company, but it is a beautiful magazine.
He says he's the publisher emeritus.
That sounds about right. But he was heavily involved in politics in Boone County as well. All right, just on a musical note here, I wanted to touch base because, Fred, I don't even know if you remember this, okay? But a guy by the name of Glenn Hansard died today. And Glenn was an Irish musician, and he had a band called The Frames, but he's kind of known for something a little different than that, and I'll explain here in a second. But he died in a motorcycle crash, unfortunately. I mean, this is just awful. He won an Oscar, and I'll get to that here in a second. He was only 56 years old, and a lot of people are paying tributes to him because I think he's probably even better known in the music industry by some of the insiders than he is by audiences. But there was a movie that came out in 1991 that I still love to this day called The Commitments. And Glenn Hansard was one of the musicians that was in The Commitments.
I love this movie.
Oh, it's a great movie.
It's excellent.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So they did like all these covers, and it really is the people that were in the movie. They were real musicians, and they were, for the most part, performing this stuff. And they did Mustang Sally. Woo! Now, this is not Glenn singing on either one of these songs, but he's participating and he's in the movie. My favorite song by him, believe it or not, is a cover of a Springsteen song called Drive All Night. Eddie Vedder's on this as well as Jake Clemens, Clarence Clemens' nephew.
Let's go to bed.
It's a great song that is on The River, and that's the best cover of it that I've ever heard in my life. But this was the song that he won an Oscar for because there is, and this is Fred, this is our connection. Okay, you ready? So there was a movie out that was called Once, and it was really a good movie, and the director's name was John Carney, not related to the John Carney that's in radio. But this song was performed by Glenn, and I can't remember, Marquita Irigova or something like that was her name, but here's the song.
Raise your hope
just a beautiful song, and it won the Oscar for Best Song when the movie was out. But here's what happened. Okay, so Fred, this was the old building. Okay, so this is quite some time ago. And John Carney, the director, and it was funny because at the time I worked with John Carney, who's now at some station that I won't name, but John and I are friends. You know, we've known each other for a long time. So it was kind of funny that we were interviewing the director. Well, Glenn was here as well, and he was in the lobby. And here's what I remember. You might not have even saw this. I followed Rush Limbaugh, right? We were taping the interviews with John Carney and with Glenn about the movie Once during Limbaugh. And when Glenn Hansard heard that Limbaugh was on the station, he got all pissed off. He was not happy about it. And I overheard him say things in the lobby. I'm like, oh, God, here we go. You know, lefty musician. And the interview wasn't that great. The interview with John was good, actually, the director. But Glenn was kind of, I think he might have been crabby because of the Rush Limbaugh thing. But anyway, he passed away. Just sad because he was known by a lot of folks, everyone from Ed Sheeran to Eddie Vedder to Springsteen, offering condolences today, and he had effect on a lot of people here in St. Louis as well as inspiration. All right, now this is going to take us in a different direction, but I have time for this right now, so I want to play it. And this is going to piss you off so much. So there were these two little girls, 15, 16 years old, that went behind the Indiana Fever bench last night during their game against Seattle. And Seattle's just terrible, I guess, in the WNBA. They've won like 6 games. They're 6-24. But one of their really fat stars, I'm not sure what her name is, but I know she's fat, was posing before the game in a picture that they actually posted on their official account that says that trans rights are human rights. So they're all into the trans. They don't like Sophie Cunningham. The co-owner of the Seattle Storm women's basketball team went down and yelled at two little girls who were holding a sign and wearing XXXY shirts. I sent Jen Say a text, and I told her 2 hours ago, I am so pissed off about this. I can't wait to get on the air and talk about it. It is ridiculous. Now, this audio runs a little long, but you need to hear this.
Well, we were just sitting there with our signs that said, like, we love Sophie, like, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up. And so we were holding them, just watching the game. Again, we were being super great. We hadn't said anything to anyone else. We were being super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. Mm-hmm. And this lady, older lady, comes up to us. And at first I think she's going to be nice. And then she asked, like, what are you guys doing? Or something like that. And then it was like, Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. And I was like, oh, I know. Like, I'm religious. Like, I know. Like, I know. Nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And, like, something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane. And that we
she's like, and she went like this. Insane.
Yeah.
She's like,
oh. Okay. Are you kidding me? So this is unreal that this happened. And this goes on, and they tell the story.
You better stop this.
And stop pulling. Yeah.
And
for you guys
I
to
hope
come
God
here
can
and
save
pull
you.
This. Yeah.
She said for you to come here and pull this
Yeah.
She said the word?
Yeah.
Did she say effing insane or the fucking
No,
insane?
she said the word. Yeah.
And nobody around you spoke up for you? No.
No.
I will say, Annalie, when I came over, you were in tears.
Yeah, I've never been yelled at like that. I mean, I've had people hate on me on the internet, but like it doesn't really affect me as much because it's just people online, but that just took me by surprise because I thought she was going to be nice, and then she started like screaming at us and cussing at us, so yeah.
And so you said she walked away, and we thought that was kind of it, but she mentioned something to you about like working for the team, or?
There was another lady that like told us like we were able to have our opinions, but we needed to not be political about it, and I tried to explain to her I wasn't trying to be political.
There was nothing political about what they were doing.
No.
There was nothing at all political about what they were doing, and they're abused by the co-owner of this team.
Just trying to support Sophie and support the other teams.
And you were
too.
just sitting there watching.
Yeah, we hadn't
You were cheering
interacted
for
with
both
anyone
sides.
except for like saying excuse me. Like we were really nice and stuff, and then this lady told us like, "Oh, do you know who that is?" And we were like, "No."
So what was your reaction when I texted you that is the owner of the team?
It's just sad. We were like, "What?" Yeah, we were shocked. Yeah, it's disappointing though too, because she's also a woman and she just kind of cussed out 2 16-year-olds that were just trying to have fun. We weren't trying to be political. We were just trying to support Sophie, which I guess maybe that. Oh, well.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's bad.
Because I know that wasn't the only person who was like giving you a hard time, kind of.
There was more.
I mean, did you feel like they've got their no hate signs up, and did you feel welcome?
No, the whole time we were kind of on edge. I was
we were
like, should we pull our sign out? I don't know.
Yeah.
And the lady was sitting right across from us, and the two people on the side of us were like turning their back and trying to sit as far away from us.
Yeah.
yeah, they did not.
Are you kidding me?
You sat down. Did you notice that they had no hate in these United States?
I didn't notice it till after she had said something like, Sophie's not actually speaking up for girls, which who else
She is.
She is. But anyways.
I mean, just in general, like, you're at this sporting event that really is about the peak of female athletics. And for them, the owner, to treat you in that way for wearing this T-shirt, I mean, what do you take away from that?
That maybe we're not being very hateful, and maybe they should work on being more kind to people, even though our opinions differ. Because we were being respectful and kind to people, and I don't care if you think something else. It's your opinion, but obviously she was not happy.
Oh, look, those girls are heroic. And this disgusting person is named Celeste Keaton. And believe it or not, the team did issue a statement. We are aware of our co-owner. We are aware one of our co-owners made comments to two fans in attendance.
Comments?
Yeah, to two fans in attendance at last night's game. We apologize that this happened. Everyone who attends a Storm game deserves to feel welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, really? And we remain committed to create an inclusive environment where every fan is treated with respect. Now, this is you know who loves the WNBA, even though the ratings and the attention that the WNBA gets doesn't even justify anywhere near the amount of coverage they do? ESPN. Guess who doesn't have a story about this on their front page? ESPN, because they're going to protect the trans nonsense. It's ridiculous. You give this story to the American people. You do it tonight. They won't do it, right? They won't do it. You show people what the co-owner of the Seattle Storm, Celeste Keaton, disgusting, reprehensible adult, did to 16-year-old girls. And you see what portion of the country supports those girls. They all will, except for the nut jobs who support mental illness and changing their sex when they're 3 years old.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we've got some volume on northbound 270, headed for 70. Westbound 70, moderate volume at 141 and at Wentzville. Southbound 270, moderate volume in pockets 64 down through Gravois. And on the Illinois side, 64 eastbound is slowing 157 through 159. We've got a jam westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Call Point Pest Control, mention Annie, and get 10% off your pest problem. Once summertime hits, ant populations begin to reach peak numbers, maybe even into the millions. Call Point Pest Control before they invade your home. Call Point Pest Control 636-798-0023.
Yeah, I want you to call Generator Supercenter of St. Louis because right now, and the month is running out very quickly, they are celebrating our semi-quincentennial. I can't believe I kind of executed that. I've been a little afraid still to say that word. But new sales and installation customers at Generator Supercenter will get $2,500 off the entire month of July, which again, coming to a conclusion very quickly. We've already had the power grid blipping across the Midwest. There have been some warnings that have been issued. My power kind of blinked the other night like 4 different times. It went out and just came right back on. Luckily, the generator didn't have to kick in, but it will if you have a situation where the power goes out, and then you don't have to worry about it. So you don't have to worry about long outages. Considering the other night when this was happening, it was like 115 feels like. That would have been miserable. Take advantage of this great offer, $2,500 off for new customers right now. You get a company that's going to make sure that they monitor your standby generator. They also will make sure they do the maintenance. You got to do the required maintenance, and a lot of the competitors can't or won't do that. So take advantage. $2,500 off, $499-2020, Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Bill, you're an old politician.
Yup, sure am.
So you know the old timers warned that someone trying to sell you a pig in a poke was a con man.
Well, sure.
Well, no offense, Tom, but your politician's Amendment 5 is a pig in a poke, allowing politicians to raise our taxes without a vote of the people. And the politician's Amendment 4 takes away our power to do anything about it. Well, let's look at what's really inside Ford 5.
Oh, don't do that.
5 hits hardest seniors and those struggling financially with new taxes on services like doctor visits, in-home care, and rent. Sales taxes could more than triple. For up to 80% of Missourians, it's a tax hike. And Amendment 4 ends majority rule, allowing a minority of the most liberal statewide voters in one district to effectively end our power to stop corruption and out-of-control spending and taxing.
Slick plan, huh?
No, Tom. 4 and 5 are schemes that hurt citizens and transfer our power and our money to politicians and lobbyists. That's why I'm voting no on the politicians' Amendments 4 and 5.
Paid for by Missourians for fair taxation.
A collision with a semi-truck changes everything. The injuries, the trauma, the questions. They don't wait, and neither should you. At Kaufman Townsley, we understand how serious trucking accidents are, and we know how to fight for what you deserve. We're from St. Louis. We're in the courtroom when it counts, and we don't stop until justice is served. Kaufman Townsley. Real people, real results. Call 314-777-7777.
Travis Wilson here, State Representative from District 106 in St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. I wanted to remind everyone that we have a crucial primary election coming up on Tuesday, August 4th. No excuse, in-person voting has already begun, and I'd appreciate your vote to continue my service for the great people of St. Charles. For more information on early voting or to learn more about me and the important issues facing Missouri, visit me on Facebook at Wilson for St. Charles. Thank you, and may God continue to bless the state of Missouri.
Paid for by Wilson for St. Charles. Merle Schneider, Treasurer.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Lockridge, and I'm the host of a new podcast from Odyssey called Family Lore. In this podcast, I'm going to have people on to tell unusual and sometimes far-fetched stories about their families.
I've heard my whole life that she invented the margarita.
And then we're going to investigate those stories and find out how much of it is true.
He gets a patent 1 month before the Wright brothers. Oh my God.
Please follow and listen to Family Lore, an Odyssey podcast available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, we have coming up here Drew Holden to talk about Anthony Fauci's nonsense today, Duane Patterson after 5 o'clock, and we also have an audio cut of the day coming up before the afternoon is up. Right now, let's do this on a Wednesday afternoon.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Sorry, my mic button's light is out, so I think I have it turned on. I don't have it turned on, Fred.
It's on now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I look over and I go, I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's thoughts. I would like to be the first to say Happy National Chicken Wing Day to both of you. I like a chicken wing. I like to get a little bit of ranch and a little bit of blue cheese. I go back, I go forth.
That's
Mark
the
Reardon.
That matches up perfectly.
Yes.
Because I like a little bit of both.
Yes, me too. Fred, I'm guessing you're
right
a
there
ranch
with
man.
you.
Oh, you
yeah.
go back?
Oh,
you
no.
go back and forth?
Yeah,
blue
I
cheese?
like both.
Nice.
Oh, I
All right.
like
that's
that.
unanimity on the show. That means Ethan doesn't like either.
That's right.
Wait a minute. Did you say ranch and
Blue cheese?
Oh, okay. No, I'm
Okay,
all
thank
about
you.
blue
Fred's
cheese.
a no on blue cheese.
Thank you. Can I have the thank you?
I thought that might be the case.
I did too. I was freaked out that he said he liked both.
Yeah.
You weren't under Fred. You weren't under oath though. It was okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true.
I take the.
What you think the second one was?
I thought it was barbecue. I was to be honest.
Were you looking at your phone?
I was texting the next guest to remind him that we're calling in 10 minutes.
He's doing his damn job, is what he's telling you.
Yeah, that's fine. It's also National Lipstick Day, and I just recently left mine in the lift.
Oh.
Any findings?
I don't know. I felt dumb calling. My husband thought maybe that was a step too far to say, did you find my lipstick in the back of the car?
Can you give us a price range?
I'm really close, between $35 and $50 for one of those things.
That's not cheap.
Right? That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
But by now it's probably melted and been rolling around, so I should just
Or
give it
someone
a...
else has used it.
Oh,
You know,
Fred!
does that happen, you think?
No, nobody would use that.
I think they would.
No, they wouldn't.
You'd be shocked.
No. Oh, my goodness. Now I'm horrified. And it's also National Lasagna Day. I like a lasagna. I don't know why it's in summer. I thought about making lasagna for you people tomorrow, but I'm like, it's 80 degrees. You don't eat lasagna when it's 80
but
degrees.
I love lasagna, too. I really do.
Lasagna is great.
Have you ever made it, Fred? Like on your own?
Oh, no.
Okay, I have.
Yeah, it's work.
It's not easy.
Yeah, but it's delicious.
All the layering.
Yeah.
I
did it, though, a couple times.
I'm impressed by that. Also, they have no baked noodle or no boil noodles now. It makes it a lot easier.
Ooh.
Yeah, so come on over to the wild side. On this day in history, 72 years ago, in 1954, J.R.R. Tolkien published The Fellowship of the Ring. It was the first volume of his Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I'm not a huge Tolkien person. I'm not anti. I saw the movies. But I didn't realize it went back to 1954. And then 68 years ago today, in 1958, NASA was created 9 months after Russia launched their first Sputnik satellites. So we're trying to keep up, and we formed NASA 9 months later.
I wonder what we did
Then we
before
kicked their asses. What we did.
Yeah,
then.
that's right. Take that, Russia.
Yeah, that's a good question, Fred. There had to be something, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then 30 years ago, I love this story. It was 1996, and 35-year-old Carl Lewis shocked the world by taking the gold medal in the long jump at the Atlanta Olympics. It was his 9th gold, and it made him one of only 2 athletes ever to win the same event at 4 straight Olympic Games.
Awesome.
You
And
remember?
that was the bombing
I remember.
Olympics
Yes,
too.
it was. It was. There was an auction yesterday in Kentucky of some of Colonel Sanders' famous, famous, I guess, and non-famous belongings. The original cash register from the first KFC was sold, as well as things like his signature black bow tie. Side note, it's a clip-on. Yes. The man was wearing clip-ons. Fred, have you ever worn a clip-on tie?
I think I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, Mark, didn't they have them for
Oh,
kids?
absolutely.
But you didn't do that as an adult, right?
No, not as an adult.
What's the turn point? College?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
That's
Look,
fair.
I used to, believe it or not, like I wore in the early days of my career when I was a news director in Columbia, Missouri, I wore a tie every day. Yeah.
Did you
I didn't wear a
really?
suit. Yes, I tried to be like professional. I gave that up a long time ago. But yes, no, we had a pretty serious, when we were in the other building at Camo X too, we had a pretty serious dress code. It wasn't, I didn't wear ties all the time, but I would wear jackets and, can I say slacks?
You can,
I hate that
but
word,
it's
yeah.
ick.
I think
Yeah.
I did a tie every day, up until maybe COVID.
Yeah, I think you might have.
Wow. Do you have a ton of them still just sitting around?
I have every one of those ties.
Oh,
still.
my
Yeah.
gosh. You could have Joyce take them back.
You know what's funny, though, is I just saw something on the X or somewhere where someone who was an adult was being revealed as someone who was putting clip-on ties on. And I got to remember who that was because it was pretty funny.
Oh. I feel like I could tell, but maybe I can't. Maybe my
you might be
skills.
surprised.
Bob Hamilton, who used to, be the
Bob
voice
Hamilton.
of KMOX and everything, he always had a tie at work, but it was always loosened so he could just lift it off of his head.
Yes.
Oh, that's
And he would
funny.
hang it over the coat rack.
Oh,
in
my
case he ever had to
gosh.
go out on a story.
Oh, that was a good
or
idea.
Someone
I
nice
love
came
that.
in. He could just slip it over his head.
That's funny. Did they loosen up the whole dress code thing after COVID, or was it before?
Well, no, it was because of the other stations. So when we absorbed this station and
We
whenever
dumbed you down.
Yeah, well, honest to God, here, Fred, you remember this. We're on the other side, and we're all kind of dress codey, and the people from 97.1 literally look they were off the beach or something like that. And we're like, wait a second here. I think we can get away with a little, like maybe that's too extreme, but can we dial it down a little? And that's literally what happened.
Well, it works for me. It sounds like, by the way, the home that Colonel Sanders used to live in will be on auction block later this week. By the way, Sanders passed away in 1980. Okay, now here's the thing I found really interesting. Somebody paid $30,000 for his handwritten list of herbs and spices that Sanders had written on his personal planner in 1964. Now, this thing had been part of a lawsuit with KFC saying it wanted, no, we have to keep the contents of that private. But it went to court, and they realized there weren't 11 secret spices on there. There weren't enough. And that somebody said, we think that's a stuffing recipe. So they pulled the lawsuit, but somebody still thought, well, that's cool. I'm going to pay $30,000. It's interesting. Okay, Macaulay Culkin has reportedly met with Disney to return for a Home Alone sequel.
That's what I've heard.
He publicly shared the idea last fall, and Disney is into it. His idea is that Kevin McAllister is a widower or a divorcee, raising his son by himself, and, quote, I'm really working hard. I'm not really paying enough attention. The kid is getting mad at me, and then I get locked out, and my son won't let me in.
Oh.
See?
A little
I thought
different.
that was kind of a
different
twist.
spin there, yeah.
Yeah, and he's the one setting traps for his father. Now, the house is some sort of metaphor for our relationship, says Macaulay. So, reporter Matt Baloney says that Disney is kissing Macaulay's to make it happen. Quote, they're offering him another movie, like he could do his own passion project if he would also do a another Home Alone.
Well, it's just instant cash
It
for
is.
something like that,
At
right?
least for the first time. If it's terrible,
right.
Okay, insect news, please.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe
I told him, didn't I, Fred?
You did, but
Yes,
this is
you
like the
did.
third time in like 2 weeks, which is really, really exciting if you ask me. But see, I got a little maneuvering to do before I do this. Right, here we go.
That's fine. Okay.
It's time for Insect News.
I love that bass drum sound.
Right?
Here we go. What do we got for us?
Well, the latest scientific discovery in the insect world is that a certain species of moth can smell and taste through its wings. Now, up till now, they thought it was all mechanical, the flying and the blah, blah. Now they're learning that these moths can use little tiny hairs on their wings as receptors, and they can smell and they can taste, and that's how they find the specific plants they want to lay eggs on. Ha ha! That's where our money is going. But that's okay.
Yeah, what's the value there?
I don't know.
Okay.
Information. I mean, it helps us learn more things. I don't know.
Science.
It's
See,
science. Thank you for that. Now, tomorrow I'm going to talk about, there's a list of connections between celebrities before they were actually celebrities. Like Cameron Diaz and Snoop Dogg went to high school together in Long Beach.
I
What?
love that.
So we'll have more of those tomorrow.
Okay, good.
And finally, in Susan News, we have today's random fact. I did not know this. Pablo Picasso was briefly suspected of being involved in the 1911 theft of the Mona Lisa.
Wow.
But he was soon released due to lack of evidence. But they found other statues previously stolen from the Louvre in his place.
What?
From 1907. I'm going to have to drill down
Okay.
on that and find out.
Yeah, that's...
But yeah, that's it for Susan
Wow.
News.
Mysterious.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. Mixed results for chipmaker Qualcomm. Earnings per share missed at $2.21, but revenue beat at $9.95 billion. Still, the San Diego-based company provided lighter than expected guidance for the current quarter. CEO Cristiano Amon saying that the company will be raising prices on its chips across the board starting September 1st. Fast casual chain Chipotle beat expectations last quarter on earnings per share at 33 cents and revenue at $3.35 billion. It also raised its same-store sales growth forecast for the year with the percent increase in the low single digits. Same-store sales in the current quarter rose 2.2%, including a 1% jump in foot traffic. Total check size was up 1.2%. Wall Street fell sharply after the Fed said it would hold rates in place for now. The Dow Industrials fell 1,153 points at 51,594. NASDAQ lost 434 points. S&P 500 off 112. That's Your Money Now.
Well, it's official. My friends have all switched to Pure Talk because I told them they could save a bunch of money on a super reliable high-speed network with unlimited data. And because they're my friends, they trust me. As for the rest of you, well, Pure Talk understands that even though you might like me, you're not just going to take my word for it, nor should you. For that reason, and for a very limited time, Pure Talk is offering any of their plans for just $15 a month for the first 3 months, including their top-tier unlimited plan that normally sells for $65 a month. Think of it like a test drive, a super simple way to save $150 while you kick the tires on Pure Talk's blazing fast network, and a fine way to see for yourself why I switched from big wireless, along with a few 100,000 of my closest friends. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and be connected to Pure Talk's friendly U.S. customer service team. Again, dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and let the savings begin.
Hey, let's talk real estate here in St. Louis. I want to tell you about my friends Mark and Neil Gelman. They're awesome. They can help you out in a variety of ways. If you need an instant cash offer on your home, they can do that. But look, most people want top dollar, right? So how do you do that? And I can even use myself as an example right now. If I was going to sell my home, Mark and Neil would probably come in and say, look, you got to fix your deck. My deck is in disrepair right now. I know I need to do something about it. But a buyer is, and this may have happened a few years ago where someone would say, okay, no contingencies, but buyers aren't going to do that anymore. So the Gelmans are going to guide you through a process which, if you're interested in getting top dollar, and again, most people are, they'll make sure that they do everything they can to crank up the marketing as much as possible. And then they may have you stage your home a little bit or make it look more attractive to buyers. It might be something you're not even comfortable with, but if you're looking to get top dollar, maybe you have to do that. Now, how do you then move into your next home without creating difficulty? difficulty. Well, they can guide you through that as well, and it can get tricky, but they are experts. They've been doing this for a long time in St. Louis. They are trusted. They have rave reviews up on Google and Zillow, and I know these guys very, very well. I know the passion they bring to the whole process and their approach of doing business. So get with the Gelmans today, 314-336-1991, online at thegelmanteam.com. Certain restrictions apply.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Tricia Burns never answers the call. Tricia Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Tricia Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Tricia Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Tricia Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Tricia Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job. Cut the Bullpack paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And at 4:33, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
25 years strong. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
For the rest of his tenure, he covers this up, and the press let him get away with it, which is really just a function of partisan politics. Has nothing to do with science, which is and the irony here is that he became synonymous with science while he was denying it the entire time.
Yeah, that's Matt Taibbi. It's so funny because I followed him for many, many years, writing about climate change in Rolling Stone, scaring people, and boy, COVID and the Twitter files really turned him around on a lot of this stuff, and this was an interesting hearing today. It just makes me angry when I have all this come up again, and the masking, the way that my daughter was affected when she was in kindergarten. Drew Holden is back with us, managing editor at American Compass. He has written a series of 6 articles detailing all the nonsense that went on during the lockdowns. It's a COVID autopsy, if you will. Drew, welcome back. How are you? I hope you're not as pissed off as I am after seeing all this kind of come to the surface again, because it's just utterly ridiculous. And why this is partisan? Why is this partisan? Everyone should want to know the answers to this.
Mark, I've been wondering the same thing. I have been incensed all day, and I'm not a particularly punchy, smash mouth, fired up kind of guy. I'll be honest. I'm pretty milquetoast, pretty even keel usually, and I have just been I want to put my hand through a wall.
Yes.
Watching this hearing, and also I think more than anything, watching the same media who displayed zero intellectual curiosity about anything that Fauci was doing, about any of the criticisms of him, now sit by silently, unperturbed, unbothered, uninterested in this hearing, and the fact that Fauci is still trying to cover up what might be the origin of COVID. It is. I don't have words that I can say, I think, on the airwaves.
I don't either. I really don't either. And I cannot believe that, our memories should be, I think short enough to remember all this nonsense that went on. And you've chronicled it extremely well. I mentioned David Zweig earlier because David wrote a book on this called An Abundance of Caution. That didn't even get nearly enough attention as it probably should have. Your writing is not getting as much attention. I don't understand why the mask up crowd and the people who are so fearful of all this. And look, I've said this many times. The beginning of the pandemic, the first 2 months, we were in kind of never land. We didn't know. President Trump didn't know. There were a lot of things that were unknown, but they became known relatively quickly, and they weren't really expressed to the public in that same way. And then the focus that you've had, I know, is on the media and the lackadaisical. I mean, I don't even know what the word would be. I say this in an embarrassed way, so don't misinterpret me. I was trained as a journalist at the University of Missouri Journalism School, but I was trained to be skeptical and to ask questions and not accept the experts. And we went in the complete opposite direction in the legacy media with COVID.
Yeah, and the word that I think sticks in my mind is gullible. Right. And they're gullible for all sorts of reasons. Some of it is a deference to liberal experts. Some of it is a class thing. I think some of it is an educational thing. But to me, it's, we went from the institution of the media, at least once upon a time, being the sort of thing that was constitutionally enshrined to hold power to account and to fight for facts and to fight for information and to fight government, to fight powerful people, to fight, the corporate interests and all sorts of other things. And instead, we've shifted to essentially the legacy media being water carriers for the most powerful man perhaps in the world amid a global pandemic. And it's just I wasn't trained as a journalist, I got to tell you, but it's
You're lucky.
Unthinkable. Maybe this is why I'm so endeared to the industry. Like, this is why I carry around a copy of The Atlantic with me at all times, because I wasn't trained, and so it's not quite as horrifying as it probably is for you. But it's unthinkable, right? That there is no pursuit of truth and honesty that could lead you in the direction that the legacy media was led to when it came to Fauci.
So when I sat here, and I wasn't even here, I was in my studio at home during the summer of 2020, and as we got closer to August and my daughter was going to be starting kindergarten, I unveiled what I called the Mark Reardon plan to the superintendent of my school district, Rockwood. And I said, get these kids, these young kids, there is no reason. I mean, I even said, you want to do something with these high school kids, which that was a bad idea too, but these young kids are not at risk. And you had the teachers union. I remember seeing teachers in Detroit, Drew, you probably remember this, holding signs, you're going to kill our teachers, right? Randy Weingarten was despicable in all of this. So this is very near and dear to my heart because of what my daughter went through. And we're very lucky in Missouri because it wasn't as bad as the East Coast or the West Coast. And I feel very fortunate for that, but it was still horrific for these kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about the teachers, the teachers union and kind of teachers more broadly being at the heart of this. I remember in late 2020, so this is after the first wave. This is when schools are like considering opening up. And the fact that it had to even be considered was insane. The teachers union in New York City had a die-in where they the way that some of the climate change protesters do, they like lie down in the street. They had written their wills and the media just picks it up and runs with it. The teachers are writing their wills because they're going to have to go back to teaching at school during the pandemic. And it's just so preposterous, right? And it's like, the media is at their best. It is a lens through which to figure out what to take seriously and what to treat with a little bit of skepticism. And all of that went out the window during COVID. And I think all of that went out the window with the person of Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. But Drew Holden is here. He's written about this, and he did a 6-part series on some of the failures. I know that one of those was on, and this is something he was asked and he wasn't going to answer today. Maybe this is even something that I can laugh about because it's so comical. The fabrication of social distancing rules. Just grabbed out of thin air, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it was very funny because there was no substantial evidence provided when it first went into account, and then at a hearing where I think it was the Senate Health Committee, maybe Fauci said, "Oh well, the number just kind of appeared." Right? Like, you were the guy who made the rule. Right. You were the guy who went around to all the states and all the municipalities and said, "This is what you have to do." Well, like you are the inventor of this thing. It's like, oh yeah, it just kind of showed up one day. And like that was what governed how many people you could have at your bar or your restaurant. That governed how many kids could be in a classroom. That governed so much of life for so many months during COVID, and it was all contrived.
Did you hear Bertie Moreno today in that hearing from Ohio?
I did.
Let me play a little of him because I thought he was really good.
Sell them all, run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people.
I thought Bernie was great on that. Everything he said there is true. And why this continues to be something that is pretty much ignored by the media. Now they'll be forced to cover some of it today, but they were so part and parcel to this that they don't really, I think, even care, and they just write this off as conspiracy or whatever. I don't even really know. Why is John Fetterman the only guy saying, yeah, you know what, Fauci, we got some questions for you? None of the other members, all the Democrats gave their speeches about how horrible the Republicans are in dredging all this stuff up. That's essentially what we got today from the Democrat Party.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And it's so repellent and it's so shameful that is being overlooked. I think Moreno is a great person to be talking about it, particularly because he was someone who ran a small business during COVID, right? Like he was at the front lines of the harm and the damage of all of that. And so, like, for him, I can't imagine. I can't imagine having, my life destroyed in the way that his was.
At a certain point, I'm going to tell my daughter, a little bit more about all this. She's 11 now, and she certainly remembers some of it. But when we tell people, how are we going to tell people in the future? Yeah, we tried to stop people from going to beaches. There were people in Central Park that were yelling and screaming at other people who were running and cycling without masks on. And there were people that would shout them down because of that. I mean, some of the insanity. Yes. And I just wonder if any of those people.
Do you remember the Grim Reaper walking around the Florida beaches?
Oh, yeah.
It was insane.
Do you think any of those people ever had second thoughts about that? Because, look, I can admit, I've admitted even today that I was, tricked, I think, on the vaccine to believe certain things that weren't true. And I've apologized for that. I deeply regret some of the things I said in June of 2021. But, I think what Bernie Moreno and some of the other people were asking, and you weren't going to get this because he was going to take the fifth, Dr. Fauci, do you ever once think about anything outside of your narcissism and celebrity and the effect that this all had on kids? Mind you, people died. We know that. But it was older Americans, many with comorbidities. It was pretty clear that if you were 70 or under during this pandemic, you were pretty much okay.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. You talk about your daughter, right? We knew from very, very early on in COVID that kids were safe from this disease. And so it became a question with the teachers and the teachers unions of who do we protect? Who ought we to be most focused on? Like, should it be a relatively minor threat to a bunch of adults, or should it be the well-being of the next generation across the country? And like the fact that has elided so much of the conversation, it did in the media then, it does now, is so shameful and just so horrific.
Can you guide people into your COVID autopsy if they want to read some of this, Drew?
Yeah, so it's all at my Substack. So if you go to drewholden.substack.com, if you search on Substack just for Holden Court, I've got all of them laid out on my homepage. The rest of them in the archives. It took me a really long time to get through all of them. So unfortunately, it's not in one coherent link because I had to write 6 pieces to try and get everything in. But folks can find it all there. So, and by the way, I just want to ask about you personally, because I know you had undergone some cancer treatment in the past too. Are you doing well health-wise? I am. I really appreciate you asking, Mark. I'm doing great. I'm 3 years into remission post-treatment. Good. I had a brain tumor. It was inoperable. I did chemo. I did radiation, and by the grace of God, I'm in a really good spot now. Wow, that's amazing. And so they were able to shrink it just with the radiation and everything. Yeah. It wasn't safe to do surgery, and so they put me on a heavy dose of chemo, a heavy dose of radiation, and by about halfway through the treatment, the tumor was almost fully removed. That's so I got awesome. Incredibly blessed, unbelievably lucky, a really good prognosis. Wow. And my body held up pretty well through all of it. Good. So, God bless you, Drew. By the grace of God, thanks for doing all the work. I'm glad you're doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. Having me on.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a jam on southbound 270, and it's really in 2 places. So southbound is jammed from Ladue Road to an accident, and this one looks like it's just a little bit north of Doherty Ferry. Then you get a break, and then there's another accident. Now, this one is causing delays in both directions. It's northbound at Gravois. So the northbound parking lot jam goes back past Gravois, and southbound goes back through, looks like Marshall Road. So a real mess on 270 at this hour. That's the worst of it. Mostly it's the usual volume on westbound 64. So that's Kings Highway out through McCausland, and again at Clarkson, and again at Prospect. Eastbound has slow pockets approaching 270 through Big Bend. A little bit of volume at the Poplar. Most of the volume on the bridge is westbound for drivers coming in from Illinois at this hour. And 70 westbound, moderate volume past the airport, 141. And we're still quiet through North County. We look really good up there. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Have you been thinking about a flooring project in your home? If you have, even if you're noodling around on a flooring project, I got great answers for you. That's Michael's Flooring Outlet with experts from 3 different locations here in St. Louis that have been with Mike and the team for a while. That's one of the great things about Michael's is you go to a big box store, you're not going to get someone who has the depth of knowledge, the experience in this industry. And one of the great things about flooring, and I've experienced this myself firsthand with the team from Michael's, technology is amazing. So, and the technology is amazing even at lower lower price points. So you can go crazy and get the silkiest, softest carpet from Mohawk and beautiful flooring that Mohawk also offers that's hard flooring. You can also do something with different products that maybe aren't as expensive, and the team at Michaels can guide you through all that. Now, I think the best way to get this started is going in one-on-one to meet the team, to see what they have to offer, to grab some samples, and to get going with the project that way. You can always start online at igotfloored.com, but if you go into Old Town St. Peter's, Darden Prairie, or the store in Creve Coeur in West County on Olive, they have an immense amount of products. It's actually almost overwhelming, but what's best for your lifestyle? That's where you can dial it down with the team from Michaels. Get started today at igotfloored.com. Those stores I mentioned open every day except for Sunday.
Can't get enough 97.1? Follow us on socials. Facebook, X, Instagram at 97.1 FM Talk, and YouTube at 97.1 FM Talk STL. 97.1 FM Talk. Let's connect.
Can you believe politicians nearly doubled state spending since 2019? Yeah, that's twice the rate of inflation.
What do we get for all that extra spending? Nothing.
Yeah, and get this, over 200 loopholes are buried in our tax code, written by lobbyists for wealthy corporations.
Our tax code is rigged against us.
We get taxed on our paycheck, our home, everything we buy.
I guess somebody's got to pay for all that spending.
That's why we need Amendment 5. It puts politicians on a leash.
Forces them to cut taxes and control spending, whether they like it or not.
Amendment 5 closes the loopholes, eliminates income taxes, cuts property taxes, and gives $3,000 a year to average working families.
We decide, not the politicians.
Amendment 5 is the biggest tax cut in Missouri history.
I'm voting yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC. Mark Ellinger, Treasurer.
On July 15th, 2026, Odyssey License, LLC, licensee of KFTK-FM, 97.1 Florissant, Missouri, filed an application with the Federal Communications Commission to assign the station's license to Hoffman Media Group, LLC. Members of the public wishing to view the application or obtain information about how to file comments and petitions to the application can visit publicfiles.fcc.gov and search in the KFTK-FM's public file.
If you need a new garage door, this could be your lucky day. The $5,000 sweepstakes is back with Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. A winner will be chosen at random to receive $5,000 towards new garage doors, openers, or front entry doors of their choice. Deadline to enter is the end of the month to win the $5,000 sweepstakes with Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Enter now at overheaddoorsstlouis.com. Since 1926, celebrating 100 years, the genuine, the original overhead door. That's where winners go.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it with a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We publish property tax rolls in accordance with the law, as the city has done twice a year for years, frankly, if not decades and centuries. And the tax property roll that was posted last week is a reflection of all properties across New York City. The pied-à-terre tax is something that will be levied upon non-primary residences that are worth more than $5 million.
Okay, so did you hear that? The name of the tax, the pied-à-terre?
Yeah,
I'm not really good at it. Is that French? I'm guessing it is.
Yes.
So Alex Berenson writes about this today. Interestingly enough, Alex was a voice in the early days of COVID that was somewhat controversial on vaccines. But I'm not presenting his case here in any way, shape, or form related to COVID. This is completely different. But his mother has lived in New York for 30 years, but got a $55,000 bill from the city of New York. So here's what he says, and this is part of this particular tax, the pied-à-terre tax that some Mamdani is trying to, implement. He says, last week, my 81-year-old mother called me with some news. She'd been coughing up blood. Fortunately, it stopped a couple hours before. My mom seemed flustered but not panicked. She handles the vagaries of aging with a bemused resignation and the fact that health maxing foods like Brian Johnson would do well, like Brian Johnson would do well to emulate. I'm not even sure who that is. The story is not about her being sick. The story is about the fact that she calls again the next day, okay? And she says that she had received a letter from New York City demanding $55,048 in property taxes on the townhouse in Midtown Manhattan, where she's lived since 1996. It was weird, she said, because she didn't owe $55,048 or $55,048 in property taxes. She asked if I could help out. So the answer turned out to be this new tax. It's the latest make good, as Alex writes, on Mamdani's promise to tax the rich. So this was approved by the legislature in May, and this is an annual property tax of 0.8% all the way up to 6.5% on high-end apartments and townhouses owned by people whose primary residence is not in New York City, okay? Except in this particular situation, apparently what he's alleging is the New York Department of Finance and the folks in the mayor's office didn't bother to figure out which properties are really subject to the tax and which are owned by full-time New Yorkers like my mom, who owns no other properties and now has until August 21st to prove residency or face that $55,000 tax bill.
August 1st?
August 21st. Did I say first?
Yes.
So, sorry about that. It's August 21st. He even says, a cursory online search would have revealed the truth. But the city's bagmen didn't bother.
Nope.
To add insult to injury, the letter was actually addressed to my father, who died 6 years ago in May of 2020 in the third-floor bedroom he shared with my mother in the same townhouse. So what he says here, and I think he's right, is the process really speaks to the way that these DSA folks, like Mamdani, the Democrat socialists, view taxpayers. The city decides what you owe. It's up to you to prove you don't. To make matters worse, the finance department published the entire list of residences it believes could be subject to the tax, effectively doxing hundreds of thousands of equity-rich homeowners. Now, look, New York City, you could have I don't want to say modest, but you can have a place that isn't exactly the Taj Mahal that's worth a lot of money because property's worth a lot of money, right?
Yep.
So, I think it's a little different. You got the CEO of the Citadel, where I guess this guy is worth $238 million. Well, he's not worth that. He's worth a lot more than that, but he's got a property that's worth $238 million. I think that's a little different than, Mom, who has whatever the property is worth in New York City. But that's what they're trying to do now, and he's trying to make good on these promises. And how many people are going to be able to prove the process effectively
how do you do that?
Without going? Yeah. So she says, he says, I'm confident with my help, my mom will get this sorted out. In the end, the most telling part of this whole mess was the response on social media. When I posted what had happened on X, it went viral, racking up almost 5 million views and a great deal of blowback. One user, whose X biography claims he is a dad, lawyer, progressive, and former 2020 Bernie delegate, wrote, "My mommy owns a townhouse that's worth upwards of $8 million, and the government is making me fill out a form. I'm deeply oppressed. Boo-hoo for me." Now, Alex says, yes, my mother is lucky. The townhouse, she's owned it for 30 years.
Jeez.
The townhouse has been a great investment. It's her primary asset, which is why the thought that she might be stuck with a crushing tax bill upset her more than literal bloodletting. But it's not just an asset. She loves living there.
Yep.
She and my dad believed in New York. They backed their belief with cash and commitment to the city. They held on through September 11th, through the financial crisis, through COVID. And they never purchased a second home. But let's talk about the people who purchased a second home. You're still going to shat on them because they moved somewhere and they're still, contributing to New York City. That's what these DSA candidates are going to do. And we're going to send another one to New York or to Washington next week in Corey Bush. I'm rooting for that for sure.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a couple of accidents on 270 right now. One is northbound past Gravois, blocking the 3 left lanes and a jam back through 21. The other one is southbound 270 approaching Doherty Ferry. That in the 2 left lanes with a jam back through Ladue Road. Now, if you're headed into downtown tonight, we've got slow pockets between 270 and Big Bend. Westbound is jammed on the Poplar Street Bridge as Illinois drivers come over. And westbound 64 is Kings Highway out through McCausland, a little slow at Clarkson and out at Prospect. Westbound 70, a little bit of moderate volume past the airport, 141. And again at K. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. This report brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they have been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out.
You want me to cover?
my cough button
for you?
doesn't
No,
work
I
either.
get it. I get it.
Okay.
Should I take over?
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
From windows to kitchens, they give you quality craftsmanship and lifetime warranties. Go to lakesideRD.com to start your dream project today. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You did it! Got it in there.
The radical left let crime and drugs pour into our nation, and they let biological men into girls' sports. But here in Missouri, if there's a problem, we fix it. That's why Ann Wagner's fixing the mess the radical left made and delivering for us. Wagner voted to ban biological men from competing in girls' sports, and she voted to fund the police and provide more resources for Border Patrol agents, keeping our families, communities, and children safe. And Ann Wagner didn't stop there. In Congress, Wagner passed the largest working-class tax cut in American history, kept big government out of our business, protected our way of life, and ensured our communities remained safe. That's why Ann Wagner's endorsed by the Missouri Farm Bureau and Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. Vote Ann Wagner for Congress on August 4th.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
Suffering from knee pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, or tennis elbow caused by arthritis, inflammation, or an injury? STL Joint Relief, now open in St. Peter's, offers a non-surgical, non-narcotic solution that can provide lasting relief. Using advanced ultrasound guidance, we pinpoint the exact source of your pain, allowing for precise treatment that targets the problem, not just the symptoms. Best of all, STL Joint Relief accepts all insurance. Learn more and schedule your appointment at stljointrelief.com.
License number GL250000615.
You're cooking dinner. The lights go out. You flip the breaker and forget about it.
But what if it keeps tripping?
Trips once, your breaker's doing its job. Keeps tripping? That's a warning. Bad wiring or something worse.
Do people just keep flipping it?
Most do, until they can't anymore.
Call Grasser. We'll stop the trip.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
I'm Bill Eigel. I'm a no on data centers. Last year, when a new hyperscale data center was up for a vote in St. Charles City, I'm the only candidate for county executive who stood with you in opposition. Meanwhile, Steve Ellman was writing op-eds in support of data centers. In fact, he spent $400,000 of your taxpayer money to identify 6 locations just for data centers in St. Charles County. I'm Bill Eigel, and if you don't want data centers in our county, then I'm asking for your vote on August 4th.
Paid for by Eigel from Missouri. Lisa Borchers, Treasurer.
Gentlemen, Mark Cox here. When's the last time you actually felt like yourself? Victory Men's Health specializes in hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, and longevity. It's built for everyday men who just want to feel better and perform their best. They already have offices in Town and Country, Sunset Hills, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. They're about to open a new location in Glen Carbon very soon. It's a higher standard of care just waiting for you. Learn more at victorymenshealth.com.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Iran on notice. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump warns another big hit is coming after Tehran fired missiles toward U.S. troops in the Middle East.
President Trump says after 5 ballistic missiles were fired at U.S. troops in Jordan, it is the U.S.'s turn to hit back.
It was a different group than we're dealing with. They've already apologized. But, we got to smack them a little bit.
Despite the escalating attacks between the U.S. and Iran, the president says a deal to end the war is still possible.
And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
Drone strikes have also hit 2 natural gas ships at a port in Egypt. It is not clear yet who is responsible. President Trump says he has been briefed.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House on a report that China was selling weapons to Iran. The president said President Xi told him he would not partake. The president with the comments during an announcement about plans to renovate Dulles Airport outside Washington. The price tag, $20 billion.
You'll walk right across the street and you'll have a number of glass bridges that will go right into the terminal.
The president says the project also calls for adding gates and a new garage that'll accommodate 30,000 vehicles. A judge has ruled Wisconsin voters who have already returned their absentee ballots for the state's primary are not allowed to void them and request a new one. For the fifth straight time, the Federal Reserve decides to leave a key interest rate unchanged.
The economy is showing impressive resilience. Even with recent shocks, the trends are positive and reveal solid growth.
Fed Chair Kevin Warsh, some economists had predicted the central bank would raise rates by 1/4 percentage point. Wall Street stocks sank after the Fed chose to not raise the rates. The Dow lost 1,163 points. The Nasdaq off 433. The S&P minus 112. America is listening to Fox News.
It's game day. Are your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine for adults. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis.
Control is everything to me.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's and ulcerative colitis combined. Learn more at skyrizi.com or 1-866-SKYRIZI.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Easy to tell, it's all about the northwest flow on this Wednesday afternoon. Sunny skies, 88 for the high. Tonight, we fall through the 80s for evening plans, 68 for the low, clear skies, and nice full moon night tonight. Thursday, sunny and great, 88 degrees. Look for scattered showers and thunderstorms Friday, and again on Saturday, each day, 85. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, despite Anthony Fauci taking the fifth over and over and over again, if you're not caught up on that story, he was before this Senate committee Rand Paul was chairing this morning, and he just took the fifth over and over. Rand Paul actually kicked the lawyers out of the room.
The attorneys are not recognized. In fact, the attorney was told not to sit at the table, and he's not obeying that recommendation. There's a row behind you, sir. That's where you were told to sit, and you're not. And now you're disrupting the proceedings. And so, look, this is the way Anthony Fauci wants to be remembered, for a lawyer not listening to the rules. That's the way you want to be remembered, and that's what you're going to do. You are not recognized, sir. Security, please remove him from the room.
And then this is what Fauci did each and every time. Even when Josh Hawley said, "What is the color of your tie?" I'm not even making that up.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Yeah, so that went on and on and on. Duane Patterson with HotAir.com, host of the Duane's World podcast. That was quite something. I guess we shouldn't have expected anything else because we knew we weren't going to get real answers from Dr. Fauci today. How are you this afternoon? And welcome back from vacation, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. And why is there not a mask on Sue? I heard her cough. There's no 6 feet of separation in that
No,
studio.
there's only 3
What's going on
feet.
there?
That's a very, very good question. I heard that, too. You know what's funny about that comment? You probably know this. The LA Times, and they've done this every summer since 21, they did a COVID story last week. They actually did a story with the headline, COVID cases are on the rise in California. They did it last August, too, and then they did another one. Like, I guess it's July still, but they did another one in August. And then they never did another one because it wasn't a big deal because it's like the cold now. But they still want to scare the hell out of people all these years later.
Absolutely. I remember, my wife and I ride bikes all the time, and we would go out on the bike trails. And I remember getting yelled at because we weren't masked up on a bicycle
I know.
outside by ourselves.
Isn't that insane?
We couldn't. It was the whole thing was absurd from the get-go. And I wasn't even necessarily an anti-vaxxer at the time, but when you had the police on a closed beach, and I mean, okay, fine. There's nobody out there, and you can't congregate on the sand. I get that. There was one person that was trying to catch a set of waves. He had a boogie board. He's out there on his boogie board, surfing in the ocean. There isn't another soul within, a quarter of a mile of him. And the police came, hauled him out of the ocean, and arrested him.
That's Gestapo stuff. The things that we endured in this country should have never happened. But as you know, the reason it happened is because of the legacy media. Dr. Fauci is responsible for a lot of this, but his stupidity and nonsense and lack of scientific focus, I think, is the one who, certainly forces in this direction. But it was the media that wasn't skeptical, that never questioned. I talked about Marty McCary yesterday. Dr. McCary would come on my show in the summer of 2020, and one of the things that he would always say, he wouldn't rip on Tony Fauci. He'd say, look, I just think it's dangerous right now to only have one perspective on this virus because there are other perspectives. And I'm a pretty qualified physician in my own right, which he was. Dr. Siegel was the same way. But no one wanted to hear what turned out to be the truth, did they? Absolutely not. Because, and I heard you talking about this a couple segments ago, the problem with Fauci and the reason he got away with it and the reason the media went along with it, and we didn't question or didn't challenge any of the constructs that were coming out of the alphabet agencies in the federal government, is because, as we now learned, the guy had TDS. He was a lefty. He was a progressive. He was a big government progressive. You ask, how come so many people on the left are still in love with this guy? If you look at a Democratic Socialist America convention, like a Rules Committee convention, everybody in the room are masked. I know.
You go virtually anywhere else these days, and nobody's wearing a mask. And the people that are, they're the progressives. There's the lefties. They're the ones that are the control freaks. They want to be able to micromanage and control everything you're doing, right? Well, look, the thing that there were a lot of things that pissed me off during this period, but the people who angered me the most were the mask up types. And I would have people say, what's the big deal? What's the big deal that you have to wear a mask as, to be nice to other people who might get the disease? Well, it is a big deal when you're being forced to wear a mask when you don't want to wear it. I mean, to be forced, my daughter was forced on an airplane several times when we went on trips to wear a mask the entire trip. Utterly, we did too. I mean, I flaunted the no mask as much as I could until someone would try to tell me to put it on, and then I would put it on. I would wear it on an airplane because I didn't want to get kicked off the airplane. But that was such nonsense in and of itself. We had this thing that happened at the Lake of the Ozarks, and there was a party, and people were outdoors at a pool. And then all of a sudden, there were some cases that spiked in St. Louis and St. Louis County. And the mayor at the time, a woman named Lyda Cruson, put this big warning out about people who went to the Lake of the Ozarks and were outside in July of 2020 coming back to St. Louis, that they were persona non grata. They were not welcome here. And we needed to out those people. It's just a joke. You can even make a movie that had this many stupid things that this country did and match up with the reality of what happened. Can I give you a microcosm for everything that was wrong with the masking stuff? I mean, yes, please. I'll give you two quick microcosms. Microcosm number one. My son is 22 years old now, and when he was in high school, when COVID was going on, he was in marching band, outdoors marching band. He played trumpet, okay? My wife and I were part of the boosters, and for a year, they couldn't do band, couldn't march, couldn't do any of it, couldn't play. It was just verboten. When they finally relaxed the rules, a year and a half later, his senior year, they could play at a football game as long as they were in the visitor stadium 12 feet apart, and they had to have little bonnets on the bells or the horns of the instruments. Like if you're playing the tuba or the sousaphone, you had to have a prophylactic on the end of the bell to be able to keep the COVID from infecting somebody 12 feet away.
Because it was like this
absurd.
magical, because it was this magical smoke that came out of the tuba and would swirl around, and it would just climb right underneath those masks that people were wearing, right?
Science to it. There was never any science to it. It was all just policy pulled out of your hat. Second microcosm. My wife is a public school teacher. She teaches elementary school.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. Okay.
Yeah, she's a public school teacher. She's taught fifth grade for a long time. She's now kind of a vice principal, basically. And in the school where she's at, every school in America has its bad actors. It's got its bad apples for kids that are problem kids. They may have learning disabilities. They may have behavioral disabilities. But there's always a handful in every school, right? The entire second grade, and I mean the entire second grade, both classes that are moving into third grade, they were 1.5 and 2 years old when COVID was coming down the pike, and everybody had to be masked. These kids, because they were still learning how to talk and learn how to speak, they could not see people speak. They couldn't see their mouth move.
So they were disadvantaged, of course.
So they were disadvantaged, and now it's 6 years later, and they're in second grade. They don't know how to read. They can't speak very well, and they don't know how to behave. They have no social interaction skills, and the entire second grade is a nightmare.
Look, I've heard this from teachers in my daughter's school. You can see that this has even had effects on kids that are in her grade. She's going into sixth grade right now. It's outrageous. And by the way, you just made me remember something else that made me so angry during all this. My daughter was playing, she was 5 and 6 years old. She was playing basketball with a mask on. Playing basketball with masks on. That's what we did. It is insane. And by the way, it's the thing about it is I don't know where you are because you got mostly lefties in California, but we had a Republican governor in Mike Parson at the time, and we had a St. Charles County executive in Steve Ellman that was doing things that were very different than the St. Louis County executive Sam Page, who thankfully is leaving office because he was a Democrat and bought into all the masking stuff. And we would have, the mask mandate lasted a lot longer than it ever should have here in St. Louis, but that was because of our mayor and our county executive. And even with a red state, we still had to struggle with some of this stuff. You guys were in a completely different situation because you probably didn't have many people speaking up for you at all.
Absolutely not. Disneyland closed in what was it, March or April of 2020, and it was closed for 14 months.
I don't think I knew that.
By the time August came around, we were so stir crazy. I actually booked a trip, took my wife and 2 kids, flew to Florida where it was 98 degrees and about 90% humidity, and we didn't care because the park was open, and I think it cost us $6,000 round trip for 4 people to fly, a week's suite at Walt Disney World on property, and passes for 4 to all 4 parks. Because that's how desperate they were to reopen and get business going.
Well, you got the best deal I think Disney ever offered, if that's what you got.
That's what we got, and that's what we did. And I would do that again in a heartbeat, even though you couldn't breathe back there because it was so humid. But we were just so stir crazy, and it was just so insane. We said, "The heck with this, we're leaving," and we went.
Do you play golf?
I do.
So that was the only good thing about COVID, by the way. If we're going to talk about the good and bad, all the bad, but the good was 20-minute staggered tee times, 1 person in a cart. That was awesome. I wish the golf courses would go back to that. So I have to at least point out there was a positive from COVID, yet that was probably the only one. So do you think there's going to ever be consequences for this guy? I mean, Rand Paul's up there trying to make some of the points he's been making for a long time. He's talking about contempt, but the lawyers, had him say the 5th. So probably in all likelihood, no consequences. They're going to try though, right?
Well, what they're going to try to do, and I'll answer this 2 ways. Will anything bad happen to Anthony Fauci on this side of the grass? Probably not. However, there is a case to be made because Rand Paul was very careful in how he asked his question set. He prefaced his question set with the phrase, dealing with the period of time covered by the pardon you have. And then he asked this question. As long as you're trying to ask questions in a time frame that was covered under the pardon, he has to answer because he has immunity. There is no legal reason. He has no legal jeopardy not to answer. And by not doing so, he can be technically prosecuted for contempt of Congress. I don't know if that will stick and if it will work, but there is at least a case to be made there. Now, the long-term effect. What did Anthony Fauci present the country today? Because everybody's talking about it around the water cooler today, right? Everybody's talking about Fauci's appearance today and how smarmy he looked, right? So what did that remind us? Is everybody coming away from today remembering how bad Trump did in COVID? Not really. Are they remembering how bad the government lied to them and how worked they feel and how many loved ones died unnecessarily or how much their kids got set back in school? Yeah, they're going to remember all that bad stuff. And who's responsible for that? Anthony Fauci. And every Democrat on that committee is still going to the mattresses to protect Anthony Fauci.
Except for Fetterman. Except for Fetterman. He's the only one again.
And Fetterman, God bless him, John Fetterman dressed up in a suit because he wanted to actually look respectable and serious when he completely undressed Anthony Fauci.
Let me pivot here. Duane Patterson is with us from hotair.com and host of the Duane's World podcast. I'll take you to the topic of Iran, where you and I have talked about this now for months, and we have some minor disagreements, I think, on it. But here again, I woke up this morning before all this Fauci stuff hit. We had a report that we were hit in a surprise attack on a force base in the Middle East. And, my reaction at that time was, well, what in the hell? Why are we doing, accepting this? And why the hell aren't we going to hit back? Well, Trump did say, and I think there were some strong words, we're going to beat the blanking blank out of them. But Duane, he keeps saying we're hitting them hard. They hit us. Why can't we finish the job here?
I wish we would. And I still think it's coming. The piece I've filed at Hot Air today, a very long piece, kind of updates over the last couple of weeks what led to this. What Iran did yesterday with that attack on our base in Jordan was actually crossing a line that they had not done so this year, which is every time they've sniped it at Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or UAE or trying to take a pot shot at us, it's been a retaliatory strike after we had done something to them. That was always their cover, right? For the first time, after they begged Trump 2-3 days ago that they wanted a ceasefire, and he granted it to them, 2 days later, they decide we're going to try and kill Americans. They intentionally targeted American forces in a base in Jordan. And by doing so, Trump finally said, okay, that's it. We're done. And I checked right before we started this segment. There was apparently 6 ships that were Iranian-based that are now on fire in the Gulf. Brad Cooper of CENTCOM just said, the president said earlier, since we reinstituted the blockade, 24 boats have been disabled and or taken offline. He was right this morning. He's no longer accurate because it's up to 30. We just hit a drone carrier the size of a World War II aircraft carrier that Iran still had, and it's now on fire. So we are doing the Lord's work here. I really wish that he would start just turning off the lights in Tehran.
I'm at the point too.
Get it done.
Look, if he's going to say we're going to, do the blanking, let's do it. Let's
get the blankety blank going here.
Exactly. Duane Patterson, awesome to have you back. Where was your vacation? You went on a little cruise, I heard, right?
I did. I know you got to go to break, but real quick, we started in Boston, went up to Portland, Maine, up and around Nova Scotia, into French Canada. Went into the St. Lawrence River and down into Montreal. We were billing this as the Anne of Green Gables tour. The problem is the one stop on Prince Edward Island where Anne of Green Gables, the series of books, was written about, the weather was too bad. He couldn't get into the port, so we had to cancel that sea day. Every woman on the ship was hunting the captain down with torches and pitchforks.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the guys were like, sea day. More drinks, more beer, more whatever, and we just had a hootin' good time.
I did a cruise with listeners many years ago from New York to Nova Scotia, and it was awesome. And Montreal is a really cool city. I've been there one time as well. All right, Duane, thanks so much. We'll talk soon. Appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, we'll see you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Westbound 70, not bad out of downtown. A little bit of volume out at 141, past 94 and at K. 64, that's lined up. It's Kings Highway out through McCausland. If you're headed into downtown tonight, the eastbound jam goes from 270 through Big Bend. Southbound 270, they cleared that accident near Doherty Ferry, but we're still unwinding. We had a jam that went back to Ladue Road, and it's taking a while. Also jammed is southbound 170 at 64. On the Illinois side, eastbound 64 jams at 159, and there's heavy traffic headed for and crossing the Poplar Street Bridge westbound. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Yeah, so you know why I was in Montreal that one time? Starred a movie. I don't know if you know that.
What?
Warm Bodies. It was a zombie movie. Well, maybe I wasn't a star. I was an extra.
I'm
and
sorry.
maybe my part got cut, but I did spend like 2 hours in zombie makeup, more than that actually, and I filmed like this entire... We spent like an hour, more than an hour, filming a scene, and it got left on the editing room floor.
Well, that is just
and
depressing.
I don't even have an IMDb credit because of it.
Nothing?
No, nothing. Maybe when they do the director's cut, which probably should have been released 10 years ago because that was a while back. Let me guide you into some excellent legal help and experience. And the experience is really important here when I talk about Susan L. Ward, because she's been doing this and her team for a long time, 2.5 decades here in St. Louis, plus providing great legal advice and getting you hopefully out of situations that are really stressful and really hard to get your life back on track. What I tell people who are going through a divorce, and I've seen some real life examples of this recently. I saw someone yesterday that went through a divorce. This was probably 10 years ago. And I mean, I remember seeing him. He had lost a lot of weight. He was so stressed. But I always tell people, you're going to get through it. It's going to seem like another lifetime ago. And that's true. But in the moment, it's very difficult. It's hard. That's why you need someone like Susan on your side. And if you meet her, if you talk to her, I think you'll get that feeling that, yeah, I want this person to fight for me. Whether it's the end of a marriage or issues relating to children, things that happen with post-divorce situations, modifications, they can help you with all that. The law offices of Susan L. Ward, LLC, a beautiful office in De Pere at 270 in Manchester. Here's the phone number, 314-783-9400, the website, stlfamilylaw.com. The focus on family law and emphasis on you, Susan L. Ward.
Bill, you're an old politician.
Yup, sure am.
So you know the old-timers warned that someone trying to sell you a pig in a poke was a con man.
Well, sure.
Well, no offense, Tom, but your Politicians Amendment 5 is a pig in a poke, allowing politicians to raise our taxes without a vote of the people. And the Politicians Amendment 4 takes away our power to do anything about it. Well, let's look at what's really inside Ford 5.
Oh, don't do that.
5 hits hardest seniors and those struggling financially with new taxes on services like doctor visits, in-home care, and rent. Sales taxes could more than triple. For up to 80% of Missourians, it's a tax hike. And Amendment 4 ends majority rule, allowing a minority of the most liberal statewide voters in one district to effectively end our power to stop corruption and out-of-control spending and taxing.
Slick plan, huh?
No, Tom. 4 and 5 are schemes that hurt citizens and transfer our power and our money to politicians and lobbyists. That's why I'm voting no on the Politicians Amendments 4 and 5, paid for by Missourians for Fair Governance.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Mark Reardon is St. Louis conservative.
Okay, I want to talk about Tony Romo just a little bit here because the body cam video of Tony Romo's arrest from Milwaukee last week after he was returning from a golf tournament. He said he was going to visit his grandparents. Tony grew up in Burlington, Wisconsin. He's actually very close friends with a couple of friends of my wife and I who live in Texas. I've never met Tony. I know his father, Romero Romo. His mom and dad actually are amazing. And his dad is quite the personality. But I like Tony. I'm just going to tell you before I go on this rant here, I'm a fan of his, and I'm certainly not a fan of someone drinking and driving. But let me kind of put this into context here just a little bit. Look, I haven't had a drink since 1990. I'm very lucky because I did stupid things like a lot of us did in the 1980s. I honestly can't believe I wasn't pulled over at some point and given a DUI, and I'm glad I didn't hurt anyone in myself. But TMZ now has obtained and published the body cam video from the cop from the initial traffic stop and his field sobriety test. Now, I've seen a lot of these videos with celebrities and non-celebrities over the years. I think many of you have as well. And I put this up on the X, formerly Twitter. You can follow me at Mark Reardon, KFTK. Look, in this video, I think some people are reacting this way. I think his lawyers are going to have no problem getting this case either dismissed or just a quick plea and some fines, because of all the people that have been intoxicated and pulled over and asked to do field sobriety, Tony Romo might be the most polite person I've ever seen, okay? So the officer, I think the officer is extremely overbearing here and rude. Look, I'll be honest with you. I've said this earlier to somebody. I'm not afraid, and I respect you people who do law enforcement. And, I support the police in many situations, I would say in most situations. But a lot of you can be, really overbearing, and, you take this position and you think you're on a big power trip. And I think that's what happened with this female officer. I don't think what she did was very professional. That's just my opinion. He's trying to be as cooperative as possible. And I don't even see him failing the sobriety test, right? So now they claim, she says there were a couple of shooters in your car, like, I guess, shots. And he said, were they open? Because they weren't open. There was apparently an opened alcohol container. He says that he hadn't had drinks. So here's a little of the audio from this. I guess it's tricky because I'm not trying to say people should drink and drive, but I don't think Tony Romo was very impaired here at all.
Hi there, Deputy Cora, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office.
Were you speaking on the speaker back there?
I was.
I didn't even know you guys said that. So sorry.
It's a little hard to hear Tony here.
Yep.
That was what you said.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Reason for my stop today is the unsafe passing on the right, the lane deviation.
Say it louder, I'm sorry.
Unsafe passing on the right, cutting across the gore. Obviously, the gore?
I've never heard that, Sue. You're a traffic person, okay?
A gore? What?
She says cutting across the gore.
I don't know what that is.
I've never heard that in my life. What she's saying is that he even asked, and she's kind of I've got to be careful here,
Yep.
but you'll hear him say, what? And she acts like it's a word that people should know. She's trying to say that he was passing on the right, and then he crossed over that lane. I don't know. You listen, you tell me.
It's the marked area.
Gotcha.
Where are you coming from?
It's the marked area. Raise your hand if you've ever heard that. No one's ever heard that. She acts like it's something that some people should know.
The golf course. And I'm going to meet Grandma and Grandpa.
Okay. All right. I'll take a driver's license from you.
You got it.
How many drinks have you had?
0.
You're coming from
No, he says 0.
I played in a golf tournament in Wisconsin State Amateur.
Okay. I'm going to run you through some fields.
What's that mean?
Field sobriety tests. Are you willing to take any field sobriety tests?
So he's asking, she's asking him if he'll take this field sobriety. Now, they pulled him over on a bridge, and there was a lot of, you can hear the traffic going by. So what she eventually does is she says, okay, let's pull over into a safer spot, and that's where we're going to do some of this stuff. So the audio kind of picks up, I think.
That's going to be an even surface, free of debris.
Yes, I agree, so we don't get hit.
Turn around for me.
I get you.
So what happens here, this is when they handcuff him, and he says, I agree, this is not safe. We're going to do this stuff where it's safer. Because you do it along the road here, you could get killed, right? So they take him to a more private area.
You in all the way?
I'm in, yes. Uncomfortably, but yes.
I know you're a taller fellow.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
He's trying to get in the car at this point. So I'm trying to get to the point where they're at the location where they do the sobriety test. He mentions he had 2 back surgeries. He's kind of stretching a little bit.
She's done perfect. I probably did the same though.
But she asked him to walk 9 steps.
Any head injuries?
Well, this is kind of funny, too.
Any head injuries recently? Any concussions?
So she clearly doesn't. I guess she doesn't know who he is. And he kind of laughs a little bit because he's probably had like 15 concussions, right? But he says none recently.
Yes.
Well, over the years, yes, but not recently. No, we're good.
Okay. When you turn, keep the front lead foot on the line.
Sorry, 1 second.
And turn by taking a series of small steps with the other foot.
Yep.
I'm going to demonstrate with 3.
Yes, thank you.
You will do 9, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Just sitting in there. Sorry, guys, 2 back
1,
surgeries. It does hurt.
2. You
Just trying not to.
willing to submit to a PPT?
He says no.
What is that?
Machine that you blow on?
It's a preliminary growth.
It does not determine the results of
Oh,
my
no,
test.
we're not doing that.
Okay.
I've already heard from all the lawyers. Don't ever do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was calling his lawyer. Like, he even said, can I call my lawyer from the car? And she was trying to tell him no. I think Brad Young said earlier, you would always call the lawyer. Don't say anything to the cops. Look, I don't think this is going to be a big deal for Tony Romo. And I hope he wasn't drinking and driving. But I think the level of intoxication was way low compared to someone who shouldn't be out on the road. He didn't appear intoxicated to me at all in all these videos. He did the field sobriety. He put one foot in front of the other fine. He wasn't stumbling. He wasn't slurring his words. They say that he had bloodshot eyes, but I don't see a case here. I'll be honest with you.
He was being very nice. He was not behaving poorly.
No,
I mean,
he could not have been more nice.
He was just very, very calm, and he really came across well.
He was smart too. He smiled in his picture because you know that's going to get released. The mugshot's going to get released. So Sue, just quick story. This will be funny for the person on hold because he probably knows this story. Is in Colombia. I was arrested in January of 1984 in Mizzou for possession of marijuana, and that was my first instance with the police. Really, I think the only time I've been arrested, I could say that. But I had to go through the University of Missouri Police Department. And it was prosecuted through Boone County, but it was University Police. So I had to go over there, and they took a mugshot, and it was a Polaroid snap. And the first one wasn't a good one, and he gave it to me. And he goes, hey, here, you can have this one. Don't send it home to mom and dad. I'm like, you mother scratcher. But that was an experience, no doubt about that.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Hey, if you're headed to the Cubs-Cardinals game tonight, it's 6:45 again. We've got volume on eastbound 6440. It's mainly 270 through Big Bend. Westbound is lined up Kings Highway out through McCausland. The innerbound southbound is lined up at 64. Now, eastbound 70, little moderate volume. Right around 270 and at 141 and past the airport. Then it opens up into downtown. Illinois drivers headed in for the game, causing a delay westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. And eastbound 64 jams approaching 159. That due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I'm Bill Hemmer, and these are the most impactful moments in American history. February 23rd, 1846, the people of Philadelphia gather together to celebrate the birthday of the nation's first president, George Washington. As in previous years, the president's birth was celebrated by ringing the Liberty Bell, which by most accounts was one of the bells rung on July 4th, 1776. Over the years, the bell was rung to signify celebrations, protests, and revolution. These monumental moments left indelible marks on the bell, both figuratively and literally. But it was during this historic celebration that the crack deepened and the bell was silenced for good. Despite its fracture, the Liberty Bell became a symbol of American independence, proving you don't need a perfect bell to let freedom ring.
America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk. Sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
Registered lobbyist Mike Deering is not the kind of guy you want in the state Senate.
Did you say he was a registered lobbyist?
Sure did. When conservatives like Tricia Burns tried to pass a bill to take back the 300,000 acres in Missouri allowed to be controlled by China, lobbyist Mike Deering testified against it. When conservatives like Tricia Burns fought alongside Missouri cattlemen to require foreign beef to be labeled, lobbyist Mike Deering testified against that too. While conservatives like Tricia Burns are fighting to protect your farmland from being paved over by data centers, lobbyist Mike Deering described Google's Montgomery County hyperscale data center as a
very positive thing.
Deering also endorsed liberal Democrat Chris Koster for governor and openly mocked President Trump. Registered lobbyist Mike Deering, anti-Trump, pro-Democrat, bought out by foreign ag interest, and in love with data centers. Take down data center Deering on August 4th. Vote America First conservative warrior Tricia Burns for state senate.
Paid for by Mo Constitutional Conservative Council PAC, Scott Lady Treasurer.
For the last 33 years, you've discovered that at Banner Construction, we pride ourselves on quality craftsmanship. We believe the single most important decision homeowners must make when considering an exterior restoration project is who do you hire. At Banner, we provide well-engineered, meaningful, long-term solutions to transform your home into the pride of the neighborhood. Let us help you fall in love with your home all over again. Call or visit bannerconstruction.com and have a banner day.
Hi, this is Steve Butts from the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. In 2026, our agency celebrates a momentous occasion as we celebrate 65 years of service to our clients, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Norb Butts. Our staff is ready to assist you with all your insurance needs. So please call me, Steve Butts, at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com. For auto, home, and commercial insurance needs, that's crawfordbutts.com.
According to MasterCard, nearly half of small businesses have been a victim of a cyber attack. As cybercrime escalates, ThrottleNet is calling on businesses to strengthen their security posture by taking a free online IT security audit right from your desk. This 3-minute online assessment provides an immediate score to see security gaps and vulnerabilities in your network. For 26 years, ThrottleNet has supported your business IT everything right here in St. Louis. In fact, no client of ThrottleNet has ever paid a ransom. So visit throttlenet.com/971 to take the free assessment today.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been injured in a car accident, call America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, my mission has been to deliver more for our clients, to deliver more for you. Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Annie Fry here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They are the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
5:38. This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
250 years of capitalism, private ownership, and rugged individualism. America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk. Sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
I usually don't feel too badly when I make a guest hang on for a long time, but I do feel badly, Fred Parry, that you had to hold on while I was blabbing. My dear friend from Columbia, Missouri, former Boone County Commissioner. How are you?
I'm great. Good to hear from you. Once again, Columbia, Missouri is in the news.
Oh, unfortunately. So I've seen some of these videos, and I know that some of my audience has as well. But let's get into what happened over the weekend, because this thing downtown got out of control. Right now, we don't hear about this much in St. Louis. The Post didn't really cover this unless you're following it social media-wise, which is where I saw it, or you're listening to my show. You probably wouldn't have known what happened. But I have a lot of people here that have students, going to Mizzou, et cetera, have Columbia connections like I do. So what happened, Fred, here the other night when these kids got out of control?
Well, unfortunately, Mark, this happens almost every weekend.
I know.
The difference is that we are the city of Columbia has proposed a 1% sales tax to fund law enforcement. And so this incident went viral because the police actually responded to some of the abuse that was taking place downtown and fired off their pepper spray and went into, they arrested, I think 9 individuals, all heavy-set, middle-aged black women, and arrested them and took them, into custody. And I think part of it may be a little bit staged to help promote this sales tax proposition. But the truth of the matter is this happens every Sunday morning about 2 a.m. These are not people coming out of bars. These are people that are tailgating in local church parking lots. They're mixing up their drinks in the trunks of their car and just waiting to sort of either beat up a fraternity boy when they come out of the bar drunk or pick a fight with each other. And so it's just chaos, and I think that but I think that for the first time, the reason why this has become a news item is that the police are actually doing something about it. They just have had to sit back on their hands for fear of being, called racist or,
exactly. Right.
And so they're doing something about it right now, and that makes a big difference. You know what I mean? That's why it's a news item. And they should have been doing something all along, but because they want it's a $38 million annual sales tax to hire more police officers. They're suddenly taking action, and that's why it's a news story.
So I'm guessing that's something you support. Do you support the tax for it?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Actually,
all right.
I hate the fact that our city, which spends money recklessly in the most irresponsible way, is using our police and firefighters as pawns to get a sales tax passed. And once the city gets their act in order, which is going to probably take a long time, hey, I love cops and firefighters. I have 30 years of record of supporting them, both editorially and
I know you do.
And so it's one of those things where I don't like the fact they're being used by our city manager and our worthless mayor in Columbia.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to go to is the leadership is just really, unfortunately, progressive college town. What you see is what you get. And there's not support. Look, we have the same things here, and these street takeovers take place here. We had an incident a couple of months ago at a Sky Zone in Shrewsbury, Fred. It's a location that my daughter goes to on a regular basis, and it was just one of those things, and I think this probably happens in Columbia too, where it goes out on social media. The kids are supposed to meet at a certain location. In this instance, they were doing like this 6-7 promotion, and there were like 350 kids that were stuck outside of the Sky Zone because they were at capacity. And they just started rioting. There's no real other way to describe it. There are stores in the shopping complex with the Sky Zone that were, closed down because they couldn't handle the influx. The police were overwhelmed. And then my favorite part of the story, which is really sad, is that there was a 12-year-old girl in Florissant. So she's way up north from Shrewsbury, which is at, basically Lindbergh and 44. She sees the fighting on social media. She grabs a knife, Fred, and she heads to the location in an Uber. Now, how a 12-year-old does that, I don't know. But she goes to try to get involved in the fight. Now, how do you fix that? How do you culturally fix that? I don't know what the answers are.
Yeah, you got to have I think you need to require a license before you're allowed to give birth to a child. I think you need a curfew of like 9 o'clock, and there's just a lot. And you need to start throwing these parents in jail. You know what I mean? Just that's the.
Well, we are starting to do that. I think the parents and the parental responsibility and some of this stuff is starting to come around. But that's exactly right. Like, where are the parents, especially when the kids are out at 2 a.m, and this often happens during the school week. It's not just the summer, unfortunately. Now, the other thing that Columbia has become a little known for here in the last couple of weeks was I'm guessing you might have been there dressed in drag for the queer-led story time at the Boone Regional Library.
Yeah.
Are you
kidding
me?
What a special day that was.
Wow.
We're always looking for things for our kids to do in Columbia, and that's one of the things you could do. A queer-led story time. Reading the book Big Wig and Rainbow Saurus. And, these are library employees who are entitled and they feel absolutely unaccountable. They do not have to. They're looking for a fight with the citizens of Columbia who pay their salaries. This is a unionized library. Our library employees are unionized, and I live pretty close to the library, as you know, and so oftentimes when the library closes, I'm at the stoplight headed home, and it's a little bit of a freak show walking across the sidewalk to their cars. But it's one, and I can tell you one thing: there is not a fitness plan in the library employee benefits program. So. I know that's a pot calling kettle black.
Shots taken. Well, I didn't want to mention that. Hey, are you, by the way, on a personal note, are you rehabbing that old house you guys had on Broadway? Yep. Is that what you're doing? Oh my gosh!
Well, it's not the house I live in, but I bought a house that was. I've purchased 2 houses that had been slated to be torn down. And so I have gone in and purchased the house and committed to rebuild them. We have too many homes in our historic neighborhoods that are being torn down. People want to live close to downtown, so they buy an old house and they tear it down and they build a $4 million house. And it just destroys the historical character of our community. And so anyway, I kind of put my money where my mouth was. And it's been a fun project.
Well, I knew that you guys had that Fred lost his wife, unfortunately, a couple years ago, Melody, who was awesome. But you had that home on Broadway for the longest time. I believe I was in that home pre-quitting drinking, which was before 1990, because I think I was at some Fred Perry parties, if I'm not mistaken.
You were.
All
indeed.
right. Hey, dude, I hope you're well. I hope all is well. I start to get to Columbia here during football season, so maybe we can catch up in person.
Yeah,
but
I can't wait to see you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank
I appreciate it, Fred.
See you soon.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, most of the volume out there is on eastbound 6440, headed for the Cards-Cubs game tonight. And it's lining up as you approach Lindbergh through Big Bend. Westbound, just some moderate volume, Hampton out through McCausland. There's some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge as Illinois drivers head on over. And we've got eastbound 64 slow between 157 and 159. Now, out west, 70 is in pretty good shape. A little slow at Wentzville, but 64 is lined up at Prospect. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Mark Cox here. Want to see Foreigner and Leonard Skinner at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater? They're coming on August 6th. I want to send you. Listen to the Mark Cox Morning Show every day this week from 5 to 9 for your chance to win.
You know, I was telling Mark earlier, we were on with Andy Fry talking about the amendments, and I said, I've never seen Leonard Skinner. And even if you see him now, I'm not sure you'd see anybody from the original Leonard Skinner, but still would probably be a good show. I talk about Game Day Men's Health a lot. They're a great sponsor. I've gotten to know Matt Lawrence, who has clinics out in Chesterfield and O'Fallon, Missouri. Evan Miller is the guy who started Game Day, and he experienced the effects of low testosterone, and he thought it was really kind of hard to find a place that spoke to him because a lot of the environments were cold and clinical and unfriendly and sometimes maybe even sketchy, right? So he wanted a place where he felt the average guy could feel comfortable in the space, friendly, knowledgeable staff, sports on the screens, fast appointments, but also treating the source of men's health problems with personalized care instead of blanket solutions. And that's exactly what you get with Game Day Men's Health. You're going to feel it exactly the moment you walk in, the difference. There is a Game Day difference. The pricing is very streamlined. They have their own pharmacy. So I would like you to go to the clinics, and they have 400 plus in America and in Canada. But there's one in Chesterfield right off 6440, Alvin Clarkson right there. And then there's an O'Fallon clinic. Make an appointment. It's a free 1-hour appointment. They'll do some blood work. If you're interested in testosterone replacement therapy, absolutely, they can help you with that. But maybe you're interested in other things, whether it's medical weight loss, GLP-1, sexual wellness and ED, hair loss, sports injury recovery. All you pickleball players like me, check out Game Day Men's Health. Make that appointment today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
Can you believe politicians nearly doubled state spending since 2019? Yeah, that's twice the rate of inflation.
What do we get for all that extra spending? Nothing.
Yeah, and get this, over 200 loopholes are buried in our tax code, written by lobbyists for wealthy corporations.
Our tax code is rigged against us.
We get taxed on our paycheck, our home, everything we buy.
I guess somebody's got to pay for all that spending.
That's why we need Amendment 5. It puts politicians on a leash.
Forces them to cut taxes and control spending, whether they like it or not.
Amendment 5 closes the loopholes, eliminates income taxes, cuts property taxes, and gives $3,000 a year to average working families.
We decide, not the politicians.
Amendment 5 is the biggest tax cut in Missouri history.
I'm voting yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC, Mark Ellinger, Treasurer.
The radical left let crime and drugs pour into our nation, and they let biological men into girls' sports. But here in Missouri, if there's a problem, we fix it. That's why Ann Wagner's fixing the mess the radical left made and delivering for us. Wagner voted to ban biological men from competing in girls' sports. And she voted to fund the police and provide more resources for Border Patrol agents, keeping our families, communities, and children safe. And Ann Wagner didn't stop there. In Congress, Wagner passed the largest working-class tax cut in American history, kept big government out of our business, protected our way of life, and ensured our communities remain safe. That's why Ann Wagner's endorsed by the Missouri Farm Bureau and Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. Vote Ann Wagner for Congress on August 4th.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
The Mark Reardon Show is St. Louis conservative.
Tell you what, we got a great lineup shaping up for tomorrow. Joe Nacera's going to be here. Joe wrote a great piece in the Free Press today about data centers and the data center war. Very, very informational. We'll get into that tomorrow. David Zweig will be here on the Fauci hearing and what Fauci did to our kids. He wrote a great book called An Abundance of Caution. David's been a guest and has become a friend, so looking forward to that. I've spent a lot of time on Fauci today. We'll spend a lot of time on Fauci tomorrow. I'm going to go in a different direction here.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
I'm just going to be honest. I have been seething in anger today, not only about Anthony Fauci and all the nonsense that went on at that hearing, but about what happened in Seattle last night. And this is outrageous. It really is. And why it's not being condemned stronger in the sports community. I haven't seen ESPN touch this yet. Last night in Seattle, Washington, the Seattle Storm was taking on the Indiana Fever. That's Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham's team. Right there down on the floor, there was an Alphabet Mafia woman who, I don't understand, if you're trans, do you have to be as ugly as you want to be? I suppose that's part of it. And she's holding a sign that says, no hate in these United States, right? With her, trans wear and all that stuff. Next to her, two young cis girls, probably. That's probably bad for them. One seems to be a person of color, and they're simply holding a sign that says, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up for girls. And they both have XXXY shirts on, of which I have many XXXY shirts, hats, and gear because I stand up for girls, not playing against biological men. These poor girls were not accosted by fans of the Storm.
Nope.
They weren't accosted by players of the Storm. They were accosted by one of the owners of the Seattle Storm. And at one point, she referred to these two girls, Celeste Keaton is her name, as blanking insane. And there's a young reporter by the name of Brandy Cruz that talked to these girls. Now, they're kind of being lighthearted about it, but they were brought to tears in the moment.
Well, we were just sitting there with our signs that said, we love Sophie, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up. And so we were holding them, just watching the game. Again, we were being super great. We hadn't said anything to anyone else. We were being super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. Mm-hmm. And this older lady comes up to us, and at first I think she's going to be nice, and then she asks, what are you guys doing? Or something like that. And then it was Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. And I was like, oh, I know. I'm religious. I know. I know. Nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane. And she's and she went insane.
Yeah. So again, she said effing insane. Now she said the word. The young girls were being, respectful of the reporter here. And Brandy even says, what did she say?
Yeah, stop this. And stop pulling. Yeah.
And
for you guys
I hope God can
and
save you.
This. Yeah.
She said for you to come here and pull this
Yeah.
She said the word?
Yeah.
Did she say effing insane or
No, she said the word.
And nobody around you spoke up.
I think I might have got part in there that shouldn't go in there.
I will say, Annalie, when I came over, you were in tears.
Yeah, I've never been yelled at like that. I mean, I've had people hate on me on the internet, but it doesn't really affect me as much because it's just people online. But that just took me by surprise because I thought she was gonna be nice, and then she started screaming at us and cussing at us. So yeah.
And so you said she walked away, and we thought that was kind of it. But she mentioned something to you about working for the team, or
there was another lady that told us we were able to have our opinions, but we needed to not be political about it. And I tried to explain to her I wasn't trying to be political. I was just trying to support Sophie and support the other teams.
And you were just sitting there watching.
Yeah, we hadn't interacted with anyone except for saying excuse me. We were really nice and stuff. And then
they weren't doing. If you look at it, they weren't doing anything. They were holding their signs. They were smiling. They were watching the game. By the way, Seattle really stinks. The Fever beat them big time. But these two girls weren't doing anything.
The lady told us oh, do you know who that is? And we were like, no.
So what was your reaction when I texted you that is the owner of the team?
It's just sad. We were like, what? Yeah, we were shocked. Yeah, it's disappointing though too because she's also a woman and she just kind of cussed out two 16-year-olds that were just trying to have fun. We weren't trying to be political. We were just trying to support Sophie, which I guess maybe that.
Can't do that.
And so overall, because I know that wasn't the only person who was giving you a hard time, kind of. There was more. I mean, did you feel like they've got their no hate signs up, and did you feel welcome?
No, the whole time we were kind of on edge. I was should we pull our sign out? I don't know. Yeah. And the lady was sitting right across from us, and the two people on the side of us were turning their back and trying to sit as far away from us. Yeah, they did not.
Because one of them, when you sat down, did you notice that they had no hate in these United States?
I didn't notice it till after she had said something Sophie's not actually speaking up for girls, which who else would she is? But anyways.
I mean, just in general, like, you're at this sporting event that really is about the peak of female athletics. And for them, the owner, to treat you in that way for wearing this T-shirt, I mean, what do you take away from that?
That maybe we're not being very hateful, and maybe they should work on being more kind to people.
I think that's a good takeaway. Now, the ownership group of the Seattle Storm issued an apology today after Celeste Keaton accosted those girls. According to, the statement, it says, "We are aware one of our co-owners made comments to two fans in attendance at last night's game. We apologize that this happened. Everyone who attends a Storm game deserves to feel welcome, and we remain committed to creating an inclusive environment where every fan is treated with respect." Now, I don't know what's going to happen here from here on with this part owner, whoever she is. The woman who did the release was named Ginny Gilder, and she's the majority owner. But this is a situation where, honest to God, if Celeste Keaton, the owner, doesn't go to apologize to these young girls in person, it's not acceptable.
No.
She needs to apologize to those young girls and make amends.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, if you're headed to the game tonight, there is some volume along eastbound 6440. It's mainly Lindbergh through Big Bend. Westbound, little moderate volume there at Clayton Skinker. Southbound 170 slowing at 64. Southbound 270, some slow-moving traffic pretty much on either side of Manchester, and some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Termites cause $5 billion in damage to homes and businesses in the U.S. every year. Call Point Pest Control now at 636-798-0023 and reclaim your space from unwanted pests. That's 636-798-0023. PointPestControl.com.